Championship. And a pleasant good evening to you, everyone. I'm Tom Mees, live at Maple Leaf Gardens. And on Sunday at the arena in St. Louis, the Maple Leafs even up this series in 2 games each with a 4-1 victory. They did it by their own admission, by going to the net and throwing Blues goalie Curtis Joseph off his game. We asked Brett Hull, the captain, about that.
No, I don't think so. I think it worked because it got us off our game as players. You know, we saw them go into the net more, which you have to do in a playoff series like this, and they would go to the net, and obviously when you go to the net, you're going to bump the goalie, and our D started to get upset with it, and the players started to get upset, and as we did, so did Cujo.
Joining me for tonight's game now is John Davidson, and we heard Brett Hull talk about losing focus as a team and in net. Curtis Joseph did that Sunday. He can't afford to do that tonight.
Absolutely not. You know, in this situation, Tom, Toronto has put a lot of pressure on the St. Louis goal. Here you're going to see how the goaltender Joseph loses his focus. He starts to react, gets frustrated, and the team feeds off that in a very negative fashion. Now remember, he's averaged 48.5 shots against in the 4 games. 2 of them, of course, into double overtime. So the play has been prominently inside the St. Louis zone. That has to change for the Blues. They've got to start thinking about getting pressure on Toronto's goal and Felix Potvin, their goaltender. And don't be surprised if the Blues say they're going to run our goaltender. We're going to go down and try and make life a little miserable at the other end. And I think the referee will be on top of that.
On the other side of the ice, what a success story, John, this year in Toronto. Pat Burns has taught this team by his own admission to play 2 kinds of hockey. One with the puck, but also to work hard without the puck, i.e. defensively, and the players have really absorbed his system.
He knows how to push the right buttons. A lot of people talk about this hockey club here in Toronto being a very tight club, kind of like the Walton family if you see the television series. Very, very close, very tight. However, he knows when to step on somebody, when to force somebody, when to bark at them, when not to, and he's had his best players play great, including Potvin in goal, and up front, Dougie Gilmour. And the question is, how much gas does he have left? He's played a lot of hockey to this point.
Well, the North Division Championship is now down to a best-of-3, and 2 of those 3 games are scheduled right here for Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. Game 5, the Leafs and the Blues up next on National Hockey Night.
Ray Motors, like no other dealership in the Alley-Kiski Valley.
Hello, I'm Roger Ray. At Ray Motors in New Kensington, we take pride in giving our customers...
A G, please.
Yes. Best to limit those. Sunday's game was not exciting to watch by any stretch of the imagination, but this is how the Leafs play. This is how they got here. This is how they'll continue to play.
Well, this is a Pat Burns coach team, and Pat Burns teams play this way all season long. And so now you're down to the last 3 games, a 2 out of 3 series. Home ice advantage to the Maple Leafs. You have to think in a long series, the team that knows how to grind out the low-scoring victories has an edge. The one factor that could turn it around is still St. Louis goaltender Curtis Joseph.
And another guy, everybody's looking at Gilmour in Toronto, but I talked to Darryl Sittler, the Hall of Famer now with the Toronto organization, and he said that Wendell Clark, when he plays emotionally, they played very well against Detroit, and they need him to play emotionally very well. He scored the first goal Sunday, so they look to him for emotional leadership in this series.
All right, the Leafs and the Blues, the emotion will flow on Carlton Street. Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. And you talk about Wendell Clark, he got things going in St. Louis on Sunday. He'll try and keep it going tonight.
You can feel it deep inside. Dedication and a real sense of pride. And you're giving it your best. Proud to be your bud. Budweiser. Proud to be your bud. Proud to be your bud. Ooh, yeah. Proud to be your. Proud to be your bud.
Both Visa and American Express Gold cards can get you to La Roche-Guyon, one of the prettiest towns in France. But should something go wrong here, only Visa Gold can get you out.
You had to come to France, right?
Don't start, Marty.
Because La Roche-Guyon's only towing service
No, we're not getting a tow truck. I can get this out.
doesn't take American Express.
Oui?
Visa Gold, delivering what really matters.
Jamal's France.
Honey, that means I eat France.
It's everywhere you want to be.
The Complete Car Cost Guide studied over 500 cars to determine which offered the best overall values. Which did they choose? The Volvo 240 wagon, the Volvo 940 turbo sedan, the Volvo 940 turbo wagon, and now Volvo has made them even better values. The Volvo Best Value Program, now until May 31st. Call us for a dealer nearest you.
A hot
New peanut just rode into town with a spicy taste that's getting everybody all fired up.
Got some more? Maybe you ought to practice with mild.
Try new Planters Heat in mild and hot.
Are you an AT&T salesman?
Yes.
Is your company telling customers that MCI's 800 service isn't reliable?
Yes.
Is that the truth?
Yes.
ESPN's presentation of the Stanley Cup playoffs is brought to you by Budweiser, fresh, pure, natural, proud to be your Bud. By Kit Metallic Car Polish for today's metallic paint finishes. And by the new Dodge, a division of the Chrysler Corporation.
Welcome back to our Stanley Cup studios once again. We'll get you out to Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto in just a moment, but we have a little time. So, Al, you've been noticing some of the hotter players in the league and some of the guys who need to get it going.
Some surprising guys on either side of that list. You start in St. Louis. They've got a pretty hot team. They've got a hot goaltender. One guy that doesn't get all the recognition he should, well, Craig Janney. Look at that, 5 assists in the last 3 games. In Boston, they're wondering where he was. He's showing up for the playoffs in St. Louis. Greg Adams scored in 7 consecutive points for games for Vancouver. Patrick Waugh, 8-0 in his last 8 starts. On the other side, guys not too hot, well, we'll go right up to Montreal in that Adams division. No goals in 9 games, playing all right, but not scoring the goals. Robbie Stauber, 47 goals without. Look for a goalie switch again in L.A. And Toronto, John Cullen benched the last game, only 2 goals in the playoffs.
Al, you mentioned the goaltending problem in Los Angeles. Jimmy, when you look at that series, you don't know which team's going to show up on a given night for either side. Blowouts in a couple of these games in this series. Tonight they play again.
Yeah, but there is one guy who's very hot, and that's big 99 Wayne Gretzky. He's playing as well as I've seen him play in the last 2-3 years, and he could be the thing that enables the Kings to win this series. Again, Vancouver is a team like Toronto. They're good at winning low-scoring games, grinding it out. They have the home ice advantage, but he is a factor in this series, and he could be the difference.
L.A. and Vancouver also tied at 2 games apiece, as they are in Toronto, where the Maple Leafs are set to meet the St. Louis Blues. In this one now a best of 3. Let's join Tom Mees and John Davidson.
Thank you, John Saunders. Fireworks going off, and Saunders isn't even in the building. I don't understand it. We're set for Game 5. The Blues and the Maple Leafs, the pivotal game, tied at 2 coming in. The goaltenders tonight, you've heard so much about Curtis Joseph. Well, there he is. Curtis Joseph, many people believe the reason the Blues are as far as they are in the playoffs and tied at 2 after 4 games. His record and his goals against is unbelievable at 1.68, and that includes 4 goals against in Game 4 Sunday afternoon in St. Louis. On the other end, the rookie, Felix Potvin, started out behind Grant Fuhr when this hockey season started many, many moons ago, but now he's going to be tough to move out of that net, it appears, for a long time to come, John Davidson. This young man has acquitted himself quite well.
I think overshadowed somewhat by the fine play of Joseph. However, Potvin has been the individual who's been able to sustain his own play and gotten stronger as the playoffs have moved along. Both these goaltenders play a deep game, very close to the goal line. Let's see if Toronto continues to bump Joseph, and let's see if St. Louis decides, hey, they do it to our goaltender, we're going to go and do it to theirs. If it happens early, I think you'll see a penalty by Marawelli, the referee.
Dan Marawelli, the referee, the linesman Ron Finn and Kevin Collins, and we're underway from Maple Leaf Gardens. Puck goes into the St. Louis zone, and Curtis Joseph leaves it for number 21, Jeff Brown. Brown up to Garth Butcher. This is Brett Hull at center. His backhand pass over the stick of Basil McRae, and into the corner for icing against the St. Louis Blues. On the other side of the center ice red line, into the corner, and the faceoff back of the St. Louis zone.
You're looking at one of the younger defensemen for Toronto, Lefebvre, who came over to the Maple Leafs from the Montreal Canadiens. Toronto had problems on the blue line. They had lost some defensemen, including Rick Natras, who went to Philadelphia, and they needed to change. So Pat Burns reached out with the help of management, and they got Lefebvre. He plays with the experienced Jamie McCowan on the blue line. And you can see that twosome's on the ice with the best forward line that Pat Burns has, and that's Doug Gilmour. Bob Barry wants the team to play more in the offensive zone, create chances, more forechecking for his Blues that hasn't been there throughout this series very often.
Ryan Wilson set to take the faceoff with Doug Gilmour. Very hot in this building, could become a factor late in the evening if we go late in the 3rd period or into overtime. No air conditioning here at Maple Leaf Gardens. The temperature near 80 today in Toronto. Lowry with it now for the Blues. Gets it up to center ice. This is Rick Zombo. Zombo dumps it into the Toronto zone. Lowry has it in the corner, looking for somebody in the slot. Has to pass it to Wilson. Brett Hull, the team captain, looking for Lowry in the slot. And Jamie McCown skates it out for Toronto. McCown is tripped up by Brett Hull, but only incidental contact, says Marawelli, so play on. Lefebvre at center ice. He'll dump it in, and he dumped it in from the wrong side of the red line, and a face-off back in the Toronto zone. So icing to call against the Maple Leafs. This series has been very closely contested. The first two games, yes, don't adjust your sets. John went into double overtime games, 1 and 2 in this building.
One thing to remember is that Toronto has scored 1 power play goal in each of those 4 games. St. Louis has had a dreadful time. They're 1 for 15 combined on the power play as Pat Burns looks on, talking today about what he tries to do to get away from the stress of coaching in the playoffs. Loves country music. He says, are you on an ESPN tonight? Yeah. Are you on in Nashville? Yeah. He says, oh, wow. He says, if you get a chance, say hello to Tanya Tucker for me, will you?
We could start rumors that way. Pat's not married, is he?
He's got a girlfriend. I won't get into that.
All right. You name dropper, you. Another whistle after an offsides play in the Toronto zone will come back out to center. Burns is quite a character, former Montreal policeman, and I don't mean on the ice either.
Both maybe.
Yeah, maybe both. Yeah.
The way he runs things. He's had a game face on now for a few days. He blasted his players prior to Game 4 in St. Louis, and his players responded. Now before tonight's game, he said, listen, St. Louis is going to be ready tonight. I saw their faces. They had game faces. I don't doubt that Bob Barry blasted his players very much like I did mine to get them ready for this one. This is absolutely a crucial game.
Bill Berg carries into the St. Louis zone. That's Mark Osborne lifting a weak shot in on Joseph, who makes a routine stick save. Played about a minute and a half here in the first period. No score for Maple Leaf Gardens. National Hockey Night Game 5, North Division Finals. St. Louis Blues, Toronto Maple Leafs. Jeff Brown backhands it into the Toronto zone. Nelson Emerson goes for it, can't get there though. And the Leafs are clear. Now they don't clear as Garth Butcher pitches in and dumps it back in. Osborne with it for Toronto, up to Berg. Bill Berg at center. Butcher gives him plenty of room, and Berg's shot is well wide. Off the boards to Zenzel. Now Mike Foligno on for his first shift of the night. He and Denny Felsner, the rookie out of Michigan, jousting along the boards. And here comes Brendan Shanahan out for St. Louis. Shanahan playing with Felsner and Janney tonight. Mike Krushelnyski lofting a weak one into the slot area. Glenn Anderson went for it. Now it's Mike Foligno. Foligno got some room. Glenn Anderson, and his shot is blocked by the defenseman Jeff Brown. Anderson ever dangerous. He's in the corner now. This is Glenn Anderson, the former Oiler, in front, and Joseph to save, and the Blues will have to clear.
St. Louis needs a change. They got their players stuck on the ice for a long period of time. Toronto had made a change, very well rested, and you can see they had the scoring chance because of it.
Foligno sends it into the St. Louis zone.
Kurt Giles on the ice now, has the puck. That's the only change that St. Louis has made in the playoffs to date. Sitting is Hedigan, the young defenseman, and Kurt Giles in the lineup. The first change in the playoffs for the Blues.
And Felix Patek covers up the loose puck in the crease area. Everybody held their breath because Basil McRae and Todd Gill went into the boards behind the net, but nothing there except incidental contact.
We've only had one shot apiece so far through the first 2 minutes, 59 seconds. Potvin, a very coachable 21-year-old. Again, let's look at the Blues with the breakout, and you can see how 3 forwards of the Leafs caught deep. But the puck has moved back up when the Blues breakout did not work. And the Blues, if they want to do one thing, that is to try and trap 3 players deep in their zone with a quick outlet pass. That's what Bob Barry, along with Wayne Thomas, the assistant coach, and Harold Schneps and Paul McLean, the coaching staff, won against Pat Burns' team. The quick outlet pass, trap forwards, because not often against Toronto do you get the 3-on-2s or 2-on-1s.
Janney and Gilmore the face-off in the Toronto zone, and Gilmore wins it. Doug Gilmore, as you saw in SportsCenter, one of the leading candidates for the most valuable player trophy this season in the NHL.
A lot of changing on the fly for St. Louis. As soon as the puck was dropped, they changed their defensive pairing to get Zombo and Barron on the ice against Doug Gilmour. That's the matchup Bob Barry wants. He wants a defense pairing against Gilmour. He also changed Janney for Bassin. A hard-working, hard-hitting centerman. He wants Bassin opposite Gilmour. He doesn't care about the wingers, but he wants that center, a punishing center in Bassin, to hit Gilmour throughout the game.
Bob Rouse plays it for Toronto up to Ken Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt dumps into the St. Louis zone and chases.
Now you'll notice that Bassin got on the ice for Toronto, for St. Louis. Quickly, Toronto took Gilmour off.
This is Eastwood to Wendell Clark. Save, rebound, save. Curtis Joseph, the first two hard saves of the night, and a penalty call against the Blues. Well, two saves for Joseph, but now the Maple Leafs will be on the power.
The first bump on the goaltender is Joseph was bumped by Manderville. Toronto, whose power play has worked in each game of this series, gets an opportunity to go to work.
For the playoffs, for the entire playoffs, the power play clicking at 15.1%. But they have tallied it right, John, in each game of this four-game series so far.
And Mironov, who's going back to get the puck now, he primarily is a power play specialist. He has the big shot. Pat Burns does not like to use him at even strength, but he knows about the shot, so he's on the power play.
There's Nikolai Borshevsky. He's out there with Mironov and with Todd Gill and with Gilmour. Gilmour deflecting, or make that Andreychuk deflecting in front. A shot by Mironov is wide to the stick side. He had a lot of net to shoot at. Mironov lofting in front again, and Gilmour's attempt to deflect goes wide. Well, some great pressure here by the Maple Leafs.
All shots from the point, and Gilmour trying to deflect the puck in front. Good save by Joseph on the one time that Gilmour got to the puck.
Todd Gill dumps it back into the St. Louis zone. 1 minute, 7 seconds left in the Toronto power play. No score here for Maple Leaf Gardens early. Gilmour in front, can't connect with Andreychuk. Back to Gill. He's got some room at the point. He'll give it to Mironov.
Oh, wait, Joseph using his stick on Andreychuk.
Todd Gill in close. He's wide to the stick side. Joseph had the post coming.
Very quick boards here in Toronto. If you miss the net from any angle at all, the puck will whirl right around the boards and out of the zone like we just saw.
Dmitry Mironov skates it out of the Toronto zone. Murray Barron corrals it and just ices it down with 35 seconds left in the Toronto power play.
Very quick-paced power play for Toronto. They didn't slow it down at all.
Lowry now controls for St. Louis. Shorthanded, the Blues have 3 men in the Toronto zone and don't want to get caught up, so they'll just let the Maple Leafs catch up to it as the time rags down. Under 20 seconds left down, the man advantage for Toronto. Lugging it up is Dave Ellett. Ellett, the long shot around the boards as Glenn Anderson pinches in, but Rick Zombo is there, and this should just about do it if the Blues clear the zone, and they do. 5 seconds left in the penalty.
Real good penalty kill for St. Louis. One great save by Joseph off the deflection in front by Gilmour.
And the teams are now 5 aside as Bassin steps out of the box. Glenn Anderson steps into the zone, though. Anderson trying to crisscross with Foligno. Ellett's got some room. The shot deflected in front by the defense of St. Louis. And Maruelli's going to call another penalty. He's going to get Murray Barron, who's on the back of Mike Foligno. And the Leafs are going to have another power play.
And Joseph skated out to Maruelli to voice his opinion. Maruelli turned and glared. And see Foligno having trouble with the right arm. Now watch in front. Krushelnyski's there. Foligno's there. He gets cross-checked from behind by Barron. Barron, a strong, big defenseman. Powers Foligno. Foligno's been around the goal net all series long. Here he comes. Push from behind. More of a push than a cross-check. However, it's away from the play. And Toronto will have another chance.
They called a penalty on Joseph.
Well, maybe that's why Joseph was upset with the referee. I do know one thing. During the recent power play, the first power play Toronto had, Joseph was chopping at Andreychuk's legs. Chopping and chopping and chopping. So now, Joseph, we talked about it earlier, as Brett Hull will go to serve the minor. Let's see Joseph get up. Oh, yeah. He used the bottom end of his stick, came right on top.
You know what? They could have called Barron, too.
Well, Barron was more of a pusher, I thought, than a cross-check. And that's why I said push. But Maruelli there discussing things with a young goaltender. He better get his focus right back right now. Even if Toronto doesn't score, if they generate chances, it'll give them that offensive flow that they want early in the game. The #1 unit back on the ice now for Toronto.
And Brett Hull serving a penalty. You might say, why Brett Hull? Well, if Hull can step out of the box and maybe get a loose puck at center after the penalty expires, he can make things very interesting. Hull's not going to be out there killing penalties anyway. So the Leafs back on the power play situation right in front. Borshevsky, Andreychuk scores!
That's 5 power play goals by Toronto in the series. For Andreychuk, it's his second. You see him on the right side. Stay out of the view. It's a 3-on-3. But you see how wide open the Leaf players got. Andreychuk just stayed still. Bad defensive play by the Blues. It's a 3-on-3. And you see 2 of them go to one side there. That leaves Borshevsky open. And you also see at the same time Andreychuk wide open. Borshevsky tried the shot. It didn't work. The puck came to Andreychuk. And after Joseph, who used his stick in a very liberal fashion before he was called, Joseph takes the penalty. Toronto scores on the power play.
9th goal of the playoffs for Dave Andreychuk, the longtime Buffalo Sabre. Brendan Shanahan was the nearest Blue to Andreychuk. He appeared to be a bit confused killing that penalty, and it cost the Blues.
As soon as you start running around, everybody else tries to do other people's jobs. And 2 wrongs never make a right. And you can see the Blues got in trouble when 2 people went after 1, and Andreychuk seemed to stay wide open. Shanahan had to take away the point pass. The 2 men on the left originally, Tom, who went after Gilmore on the backside inside the goal line in the corner. As soon as that happened, they were in trouble. Toronto, a lot of power plays around the league will slow things down and try and make the perfect play. Toronto's power play here has just been rocket fast. Boom, 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 boom. Passing, scoring chances, point shots, nothing slow about it at all. And St. Louis better realize this now. They better start taking care of themselves as far as penalties go, or it'll be a long night.
Bob Rouse gains control of the faceoff in the Toronto zone. So the Maple Leafs break out on top on the goal by Andreychuk, who so many years was labeled as not playing well in the playoffs in his years in Buffalo. He's erased that label and then some here this season in Toronto. Back out to center, Kurt Giles, longtime Minnesota North Star captain in his second year with the Blues. Giles pass intended for Janney. Bob Rouse has it. That's Andreychuk from Nikolai Borshevsky. And Doug Gilmore at 6:18. That's the official on the goal.
That point.
Offsides, and sticks get up between Zombo and Bird.
That point by Gilmore now gives him 18 playoff points. Trails Wayne Gretzky by 1 for the overall lead.
Today's metallic paints look beautiful, but can dull over time. Kit Metallic Car Polish makes metallic finishes glow, seals in protection. Nice shine. New Kit Metallic.
The best defense is not to offend. Thus, introducing the new Right Guard Sports Stick. Now with a time-release formula for longer-lasting protection against hostile odor all day. For protection that endures.
Chrysler Corporation has sold over 3 million minivans, 28 of which were bought by other car makers like Nissan, Toyota, and Ford. Maybe they were hoping to take our ideas and somehow improve on them. Their work has led to one sobering conclusion. Anybody can take apart the world's best-selling minivans. Only one company can put them together.
Welcome back to ESPN's National Hockey Night, everyone. Game 5, Norris Division Finals. 2 games apiece, St. Louis and Toronto. 1 goal to none in favor of Toronto. I'm Tom Mees, along with John Davidson.
Well, and you see Gilmore on the ice again. He always warrants attention. Right away, Bob Barry puts out that defensive pairing, Zombo and Barron, to face Gilmore.
And the puck in the St. Louis zone. McCown pitches in along the boards and does his job well, keeps it in there. Brendan Shanahan picks up the loose puck and skates it out. Shanahan with Belzer in the Toronto zone. Rick Zombo, the shot off the post. He hit the outside of the post. Big Zombo. Oh, that was close. And here comes Andreychuk out for Toronto. Dave Andreychuk. He's got McCown on his left. He'll take the shot high and wide, and into the crowd it goes for a faceoff. Rick Zombo came about 1.5 inches from tying this game.
That was a great play by Brendan Shanahan to gain the zone in Toronto zone. Curl at the blue line and hit the 4th man coming late. Look at the number 4, Zombo. You see 3 Blues up there. Shanahan now makes the beautiful pass. He could have moved in even further if he wanted to. I don't think he realized he had that much time. And you see how he beat Potvin. to the glove hand side, but he caught the outside of the goalpost. You think of Toronto's 2 wins in this series, both goals scored by defensemen. Brown, Jeff Brown here in Toronto in double overtime, and then in St. Louis in Game 3, it was Garth Butcher who moved in to score the winner. And there, Toronto's first rush sent their defenseman in. It pays off as they had a great scoring chance.
And the face-off at center ice. 1-0 Toronto leads it. With John Davidson, I'm Tom Mees. Game 5 Norris Division Finals, and a whistle. And Marawelli's going to call, I believe, a holding penalty
on Toronto. Ferocious forechecking by the Leafs. Wendell Clark with 2 kids, Manderville and Eastwood. And the forechecking was so aggressive that you'll see Clark here reach out and pull down the defenseman Brown as he tried to break out of the zone. So Toronto get their first penalty. St. Louis now has a chance on their power play, which just simply hasn't worked. They moved the puck well. Brett Hull's been robbed, but they're 1 for 15. The only goal scorer is Denny Felsner. That's a second unit power play man.
And, of course, the power play for the Blues worked so well in their opening series against the Chicago Blackhawks. They really made the Blackhawks pay. Is Toronto doing anything different to shut it down in this series?
Well, I think more than anything, Potvin's been very, very good in goal for one. See, Brett Hull takes the face-off here, even ahead of Janney.
Zenzel pinching into the St. Louis zone shorthanded, but Brett Hull corrals the puck. Hull is out there with Jeff Brown, Nelson Emerson, Brendan Shanahan, and Craig Janney in the Leafs ice it.
Toronto talks about how aggressive they've been penalty killing. They don't even allow St. Louis to set up very often. Here, St. Louis gets a chance to set up because the Leafs changed, but it's aggressiveness. Look at Osborne move over right now.
Jeff Brown skates to the other side of the red line and dumps it in for Shanahan. Brendan Shanahan in front when he waves at it as Dave Ellett had his stick tied up. Ellett behind the Toronto net, lose it for Mark Osborne. And Osborne gets it to center. Emerson has to wait for the Blues to get onside and immediately dumps it in. Jeff Brown has it hop over his stick, and that'll cost a few more seconds. Blues have to get back onside to do so. Emerson over to Brett Hull. Osborne pressing Brett Hull. Hull's got a little room now. In front from a bad angle. Nowhere near the goal, and Potvin just watches it go by, and Toronto ices the puck and clears the zone.
Shanahan had his head down. On the other side of the ice, wide open, was Janney. Shanahan missed the net from a bad angle.
Janney to Hull, and his shot is blocked in front. Lefebvre off the boards. Emerson keeps it in, backhands it into the corner. Brett Hull scores! It happened so quickly, John. You almost have to sense where Brett Hull is. Bing, bang, boom.
It's amazing. Is 2 scoring chances by Hull. An amazing pass from Janney to find Hull, and Hull had a shot blocked. Then the power play stays alive, and look who's passing the puck here. That's Brown, the defenseman. And it just took 2 steps so he could find Hull wide open. Watch Hull's stick. It's always open, always ready. He doesn't have to have the puck hit his stick and then have him take a look as to where he's going to shoot. He told us today, I don't look. I just want to get the shot away quickly. That was a shot that appeared to go through the legs of the goaltender. It's not the accuracy, it's the quickness. And Brett Hull never allows a goaltender to set up. Great pass from Brown in the corner, a defenseman, to hit Hull, and Hull scored.
And of the 8 playoff goals you see that Brett Hull has, 5 of them are on the power play. So Brett Hull scores to tie it at 1-1. And that silences the partisan crowd here in Toronto for the moment. That ought to be a big look to the St. Louis Blues, John, who really have been outplayed the first half of this period.
And to get their power play going.
Yeah.
That could mean something to them. It was so great against Chicago, and it took advantage of the bad penalties Chicago took. Now it becomes a weapon when it gets hot.
Murray Barron was allowed to carry into the Toronto zone, and Potvin made the routine save as his coach Matt Burns looks on. The official on that goal, Hull, from Jeff Brown and Nelson Emerson at 9:29.
This allows St. Louis immediately to get right into the game. They were guilty of not having good starts for their 2 games in St. Louis. There you see the quickness of the shot. Potvin was in between. He wasn't standing up, and he wasn't down on the ice. He was halfway down because that man, Brett Hull, could release the shot so quick. And it went right through the wickets of the young goaltender.
10 minutes, 10 seconds left first period. Krushelnyski and Wilson on the face-off in the Toronto zone, and big Mike Krushelnyski dumps it out of the zone to center. Childs with it. Stefan Quintal knocks it ahead. And Elliott goes behind the net.
First shift for Korolov.
Yeah.
He is in the lineup in place of Miller, Kevin Miller. And that's a surprise. I think St. Louis has found that they needed to put some fresh bodies in there.
Maple Leafs doing a good job controlling, and Joseph had to make the save on a backhand by Mike Foligno as Foligno was falling to the ice.
And Foligno had Quintal all over him. The goaltender went down before the shot, expecting the low shot. Good save.
Coming up next on ESPN's Tuesday Night Baseball, it's the hot Chicago White Sox who have won 5 games in a row, taking on the power-packed Seattle Mariners. As you look at the attempt at a goal by Mike Foligno there, the White Sox and the Mariners. Mariners led by Ken Griffey Jr. already has 9 home runs. Pitching matchup, Dave Steve, the former Blue Jay, against Randy Johnson. Live baseball next on ESPN following our Stanley Cup action. Bo Jackson, the White Sox, Ken Griffey Jr., and Seattle.
And right back here in Toronto, we're tied at 1. Power play goals for each team. The defensemen, Zombo and Barron, on the ice talking to one another right now, discussing what they're going to do to make the change on the fly. So they're prepared to have Gilmore against them. Gilmore is not on the ice. However, Toronto may change on the fly. You've got 2 very smart, wily coaches here in Bob Berry and Pat Burns, and they'll challenge each other all game long regarding changing the players on the fly to get their matchups.
Eastwood wins the faceoff. Wendell Clark a quick shot away, but it's knocked down by the defense. Philippe Bolzon got a leg on it for St. Louis. Eastwood mucking along the board, still having control, gets it to Clark, and his shot is about a foot wide, that's all, to the glove side. Now in front, Joseph has to make the save on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt controls the rebound. Blues a little bit disorganized in their own end, and they finally get it out. This is Rich Sutter. Part of the Sutter twins on this roster. Ron Sutter still nursing a separated shoulder injury. And a whistle for faceoff.
Puck is lost. I think it's in somebody's equipment. No one seems to know where it is. Maybe it went into the stands.
You're taught as a ref when you can't see it, you blow it for the faceoff, and that's fair enough for the Maple Leafs.
Now, do you know what this means? Tostil kut. Tostil kut.
What's that mean? That sounds Russian to me.
I think it's Russian. It means fat cat. That's what Pat Burns says to him all the time. He says he got going last summer with a knife and fork. Never really recovered. Had a bad problem with an abscess tooth a month ago in the season. Never recovered from that. And doesn't get a lot of ice time. So Pat Burns goes over it, and I didn't say it well. And all you people out there that speak Russian, I apologize. I know brasai means shoot. I know shaibu means score.
Now, wait a minute, John. You work
Shaibaz means puck.
You work in the most cosmopolitan city in the world, and you don't know Russian? Borshevsky's centering pass intercepted by Garth Butcher. Have to send you to Berlitz. Hull dumps it in the zone. Jeff Brown can't catch up to the rebound. Gilmore and Jeff Brown bump hard behind the Toronto net. Hull is in there trying to center. McCown takes him down. There's a loose goal stick behind the net. Hotman doesn't have a stick. Finally, McCown hands it back to him. 8:25 to go for his period. Tied at 1 for Maple Leaf Gardens. Butcher and McRae work to keep it in the Toronto zone, but Borshevsky eventually gets it out. This is Andrechuk. Andrechuk to Gilmore. Andrechuk wanted a penalty. He felt he was taken down illegally at center ice. Blues clear the zone again, and Todd Gill. Gill waits. Dumps it in where Curtis Joseph gets a stick on it. There's another loose stick in the faceoff circle to the right of Joseph. Nelson Emerson quickly into the Toronto zone. He can skate. Shanahan gets an elbow in the face from Glenn Anderson, and nothing is ever.
Wow.
Shot by Zombo, and Hotman makes the save.
Shanahan has kept his cool so far, but did he ever take a mean elbow to the kisser?
Krishwinski in the corner. And Shanahan just got Anderson back.
Shanahan was going after Anderson. He ended up running his own goaltender over.
But he got an elbow in Anderson anyway. Emerson, Hotman has to drop on the loose puck as Brendan Shanahan goes into the goal crease area. Things are heating up physically here at the Gardens in Toronto. We're tied at 1. We'll be back in a moment.
Committed to holding the line on city taxes, public safety, fiscal management, and progress. Since his retirement, John Monaca has served the city of New Kensington as its full-time mayor. John Monaca has worked to protect citizens by bringing the number of police officers to 24 and supporting local volunteer fire companies. Under the Monaca leadership in the past 12 years, over $7 million in funding was procured for downtown and neighborhood projects. May 18th, vote John Monaca mayor, Bernie Kubiak, and Don Bowers councilman for the city of New Kensington.
Justice, fairness, compassion, integrity. These qualities describe James DePalma, candidate for District Justice in Springdale and Cheswick boroughs, Harbor and Springdale townships. A longtime resident of this district, Jim understands the point of view of the people and their circumstances.
I'd like to serve our communities and do the best job and do the fairest job that I can possibly do.
James DePalma for District Justice, strong enough to be firm, understanding enough to be compassionate.
Back here in Toronto, time to take a look at the Budweiser Stanley Cup summary. Of course, Montreal wins over the Buffalo Sabres. 5 overtime wins, just one short of a record. Patrick Waugh leading the way for the goalies with 8 wins already. Wayne Gretzky, there's a familiar sight atop the playoff scoring charts. What is he, 1 point ahead of Doug Gilmour now?
1 point. Gilmour with 18, Gretzky with 19. And remember, Gretzky hasn't played those complete games when he had the rib injury earlier in the Calgary series. St. Louis has been murdered so far, losing 15 of 16 faceoffs. We'll see what happens here. Wow.
Who's going to control this?
Manderville showed some strength. I mean, he just out-muscled, out-powered Bassett. That's another win by Toronto.
And the puck comes all the way down to the St. Louis zone. Eastwood is racing Giles for it, but little Kurt Giles gets there first. However, Eastwood puts a body on him, and the Maple Leafs keep it in the St. Louis zone. Bassett with it behind his own net. 1-1 the score. Game 5, Norris Division Finals from Toronto. Series tied at 2. Game 6 Thursday night in St. Louis. Rouse at the right point. Dumps it over Bassett's head over the glass into the crowd. Let's go back to our studios now and John Saunders.
It's time for the Dodge playoff update, Tom. The Islanders and the Penguins from last night. The Islanders off to the slow start, got within 2, but Mario Lemieux redirecting this one past Healy, his second goal. 6-3 is the final. You can see game number 6 here on ESPN tomorrow night. Right now, let's take you back to Tom and John in Toronto.
Why, thank you, John. Well, there is Bob Berry behind the St. Louis net. I was thinking, we're going behind the St. Louis bench. If he's behind the net, they're in trouble. Berry and Pat Burns, both very successful coaches. The city east of here in Montreal during their careers.
You think about this, I'm talking to Dave Molinari, one of the fine hockey writers in Pittsburgh. He said, what does St. Louis, Los Angeles, Montreal, and Pittsburgh all have in common, especially if they make the Final Four? I don't know. What? He says all of them have been coached by Bob Berry. So that'd be quite interesting if those 4 teams happen to get in. And that's a big if. A lot of teams like Toronto and Vancouver and the Islanders playing very, very well.
Igor Korolev had it momentarily for the Blues. Got it back to Jeff Brown. Brown dumped to center, but now it's Toronto's puck with 6:05 left to go here in the second period. Lefebvre and McCown playing catch at the Toronto blue line. Here's Borshevsky. To Gilmour, back to McCown. McCown maneuvers the shot, and Joseph closes the pads to make the save with 5:56 to go.
Nice job by the Blues, pushing everybody into the middle between the circles and allowing that man, Joseph, to see the shot from Crazy Legs McCown. He loves to skate up the ice with a puck. His legs are going in every direction. This time, though, he moves the puck nicely to a wide-open Borshevsky as the Blues were changing. Now watch in front of the net here as Gilmour dumps the puck off. McCowan has it. See how everybody goes to the one side and clears the Leafs out of the way? Even if there's a rebound there, the Blues had taken the Maple Leafs and closed them right off. They had no shot at moving out and getting a hold of a rebound.
Well, the way Joseph is played, John, you got to figure if he can see the puck 99 times out of 100, he's going to stop it.
It's interesting the way he plays on his hands and knees. He thinks low shot first, and if you think about it, you can never shoot the puck too low, but you can shoot the puck too high.
Face off back to Allen. He hit the outside of the post, stick side. Joseph never saw it, so it was by him.
And the Leafs controlling the face-offs. I mean, it's so one-sided, it's already become a factor in the game. There's a scoring chance off a draw.
Janney loses control. Bill Berg takes it away from him at center ice. And therein lies one of the keys to Toronto's success in Game 4 was their play at center ice. able to stop St. Louis on the rush and just take it back in the other way. Blues almost cough it up behind their own net. Instead, it's Janney at center. Janney now has it dribble off his stick. And onside is Osborne. Bird goes for it on the right wing and pays for it with a big hit. Zombo and Osborne jousting. Peter Zezel with it down the corner. Former Blue, Zezel around the boards to Gill. Zombo for St. Louis. Zombo and Zezel. Janney sitting there waiting for a loose puck. Dave Lowry with it now for St. Louis. Just lost it to center. 4:40 and counting as both teams go for a line change. And our score is tied at 1 from Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. National Hockey Night returns in a moment.
Come on, let's get a cold one.
Our total attendance for today's game.
Oh, would you look at this beer line? I'm gonna go back.
What? Foul ball? No, I'm not.
Foul ball! Foul ball! Out the way! I got it!
If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down,
Make it 2 Bud Lights, please.
make it a Bud Light.
Hey, you got another ball?
For under 10 grand, you can get a Dodge Shadow ES with a surprise option under the hood. One hot V6. And you know what that means, don't you? Sounds like another wild ride from Dodge. Available with or without a top.
We're tied at 1. You see the time remaining. This is a scoring chance off the faceoff. And you see what happens. The puck redirects off Zombo and just wide as Joseph looks in behind him. Scoring chances off the faceoff. Puck possession time off the faceoffs. 17-2. Yeah, that's a little one-sided. Man. St. Louis has got to pick up on that. You see Basson cheating here. He's almost facing the boards.
By the ordinary fan, it's maybe the most overlooked part of this game, the face-off.
St. Louis used a team format that time to work the puck out of the zone.
Foligno one-on-one, the shot and the save by Joseph. Mike Foligno doing the hockey version of trying to break down the defense one-on-one.
He's getting scoring chances, even though he's had to battle a defenseman while doing so, showing supreme strength.
Loose puck, and Brett Hull finally corrals it for the Blues. We're tied at 1. First period, Game 5 in Toronto. With John Davidson, I'm Tom Mees. Welcome to National Hockey Night here on ESPN. The chase for the Stanley Cup continues its long and winding road. Glenn Anderson clears the zone, and Lowry lays his shoulder into him. Blues don't care for Glenn Anderson too much, especially after what he did earlier in the game to Shanahan.
Shanahan gets his licks in, too. It'll be interesting to see if those two continue to have a private battle.
McCown to Nikolai Borshevsky to Gilmore. Gilmore tries to get it to Borshevsky. He does, and Borshevsky could not control it. And in the corner, Murray Barron is sitting on Borshevsky, and nothing's called. Boy, Barron must think he's in the rodeo in this game, John. He's sat on a couple of people.
He's trying to hold the players in the zone, Tom, so when Toronto comes back in, they'd be called on the offside.
Andrechuk at center. Wilson is on his back. And Andrechuk still gets it to Borshevsky. Going to be a penalty. I believe Ron Wilson is going to go.
Absolutely.
As the Blues touch up, the Toronto Maple Leafs will go on the power play. Holding will be the call. At 16 minutes, 54 seconds, Ron Wilson the culprit.
Ron Wilson had Andrechuk get body position on him, heading towards the St. Louis goal. You'll see it here. Watch him head up ice, and Wilson's behind him. Now watch Wilson take one hand off his stick and reach around Andrechuk, and then finally just jump on the much bigger player. And down goes Andrechuk. Andrechuk got body position. Wilson had no chance, and you hate to see your team take a neutral zone penalty.
More Stanley Cup coverage on National Hockey Night tomorrow night. It'll be Game 6, the Penguins and the New York Islanders. Can the Islanders force a 7th game with the two-time defending champions? Or can Pittsburgh win this series and look forward to taking on the Montreal Canadiens? We'll find out tomorrow night, coast to coast on ESPN, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time. Well, Mario got busy early last night, scoring 19 seconds into the game as Ron Wilson sits for St. Louis.
This will be the third power play for Toronto. They have scored on the one of the two that they've had, and now they come out here with a second unit up front. Krushelnyski and Foligno. If the two of them get in front of Curtis Joseph, it's very difficult to see the puck. Shanahan, interestingly, takes a defensive draws, penalty killing wise.
Anderson in front, and the shot is wide of the stick side. Anderson behind the St. Louis net. Off the skate of Butcher. And the Blues clear the zone. And Toronto won another faceoff.
Yeah, from Shanahan, who was out there to take the draw. As soon as he lost the draw, he now has gone to the bench for a change.
Toronto behind its own net. St. Louis doing some forechecking. Rich Sutter that time. Just bragging some time off that penalty clock. Minute 30 to go in the Toronto power play. Off the stick of Brown in front. He recovered nicely, but Mironov keeps it in. Foligno is taken down in front. He wanted a penalty. He won't get it. Garth Butcher did a good job.
Tom, since Joseph took that penalty and Toronto scored on the power play following it, he has not used his goal stick at all. He finally has settled down, I think, as far as pushing and shoving and chopping goes. He's got to worry about stopping the puck, not chopping people.
Gilmore into the St. Louis zone, 1-on-3. Doug Gilmore leaves it for Mironov, and the save by Joseph, and he'll hang on with 58 seconds left to the power play.
Butcher using his body to clear people out. The long high wrist shot from Mironov. Joseph had no trouble seeing it all. Garth Butcher, now you'll see him in front of the goaltender here. Pick up Foligno, knock him down, away from the puck. Now he'll move across. As the puck goes back to the point, you'll see him go back in front again. As, well, Toronto, trust me, moved back up the ice. And Butcher did a good job of clearing people out.
Curtis Joseph. Been the object of so much attention in the playoffs, and why not? He was just spectacular against Chicago, pitching 2 shutouts, setting a team record for consecutive scoreless minutes in goal. Wojciechowski with it now for Toronto. Rouse is winding up, and they don't get him the puck. Gilmore to Ellett, who closes in, deflected by the defenseman, rather by the winger, Rich Sutter, over the goal. Rouse and Ellett at the point. Rouse with a dry score!
It all happened in front. Andrechuk, Zombo couldn't move him. Zombo tried to punch him in the back of the head. When you got bodies like this in front of the goaltender, how does he see it? Rouse will move across. Now watch Zombo in front. You can't move him. Right through the 2 players, maybe even hitting the skate of Zombo. Watch Zombo's right hand. Boom. Still, look at the goaltender look around for the shot. Low shot. And you see it sneak underneath the catching glove inside the goalpost. Great view there. 2-1 Toronto, everything on the power play. And Toronto on their power play have had point shot after point shot after point shot with people standing in front of Joseph, the goaltender.
Well, the goal is credited to the defenseman, Bob Rouse. And that's Rouse's second goal of the playoffs. At 18-17, his play is back on, so 2 power play goals for Toronto, 1 for St. Louis, and the power play percentages of both teams going to go up based on what we've seen so far. Coming up, it'll be the Dodge Intermission Report on National Hockey Night. We're going to have Jim Schoenfeld and Al Morganti analyzing tonight's first period. We'll take a look back at Mario's night last night in Pittsburgh. Of course, John Saunders will be your host for the Dodge Intermission Report coming up in a moment.
Power play-wise, during the regular season, teams clicked on an average of 19.6%. In the playoffs, teams have averaged 19.7% on the power play. Very, very similar. Here in the first period, we've had 3 power play goals, and Toronto's power play has looked very, very sharp. They have big bodies, Tom, that they put in front. Foligno, Andrechuk, guys like that. Try and move them. Try to see the puck through those big bodies.
I mean, the point is this. You can't stop what you can't see, and Joseph didn't see that puck coming at him at 100 miles an hour to the last moment. Here's Craig Janney with a chance. Can't get the centering pass to Hull, though. Hull battling with Lefebvre now as we have under a minute to go in the first period. Zezel, his drive is short-circuited by Butcher. Garth Butcher with it for the St. Louis Blues. To Hull. Cross ice to Janney. It's onside. Korolev to Janney. Janney tried to center instead of shoot, and he didn't make it.
That was a great pass by Hull from one side of the rink to the other to try and get away from the fine checking that Toronto has. Very similar to Montreal. they close you right off, and it's hard to come up the ice and make two straight passes, consecutive passes.
McCown dumps it in. Quintal has to go for it, up to Shanahan. Under 20 seconds to go. Nelson Emerson almost had a break. He and McCown raced for it. Emerson, if he would have been able to control it, was in business. Denny Felsner bumped off by McCown. Under 10 seconds to go. Now 5 seconds. That should just about do it for the period as Quintal controls. And the fans giving their Maple Leafs a standing ovation. After one, it's 2-1 Toronto. It's been a powerful first period.
3 power play goals, 12-6 the shots. I thought that Toronto did a good job getting in front of Curtis Joseph again. He responded by taking 1 penalty, which cost his team a power play goal. And then he quit with the stick in such interesting period.
2-1 Toronto as we get set for our first intermission. Dodge intermission report coming up. I'm Tom Mees with John Davidson. We'll be back in a moment. Now let's go to the studios and John Saunders. John?
All right, Tom and John, thanks a lot. The Maple Leafs at home with the lead, looking to take a 3-2 series lead. Welcome to the Dodge Intermission Report. When we come back, we'll hear from Al and Jim. We'll look back at the first period. We'll also take a look back at Mario Lemieux. His back allowed him to play last night. That and more as the Dodge Intermission Report rolls along. It's 2-1, Toronto with the lead. Rick Zombo just on the wrong side of the post, or this thing would be tied up.
We're gonna have to bail.
What about the Bud Light?
No time. There's only one left.
You take it. I'll never forget you.
If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light.
Not so fast.
Yes. Engine performance to the max. Performax from Pennzoil. Drain interval protection to the max. Performax from Pennzoil. Engine protection to the max. Performax from Pennzoil. New synthetic motor oil with Pennzoil's exclusive star molecule. Protects engine parts at ignition. Works like liquid ball bearings. Hangs tough during the most extreme driving conditions. Performax. Protects to the max.
The weapons are deadlier. The romance is sweeter. The passion is hotter.
Kiss me like you've never kissed me before.
And the explosions are bigger. Keeps going and going. Yes! Hot Shots Part 2. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, May 21st at theaters everywhere.
With all the performance and reliability of a true Hewlett-Packard LaserJet, the new HP LaserJet 4L easily surpasses other low-priced laser printers for the breakthrough price of just $849. The new HP LaserJet 4L printer. Now's the time to make the leap. If it isn't a LaserJet, it's only a laser printer.
Some things were made to fade away, but not Dutch boy. Ooh, we got to look that last. We got to look that last.
The Dodge Intermission Report is presented by the New Dodge, a division of the Chrysler Corporation.
Welcome, everyone, to the Dodge Intermission Report. I'm John Saunders. Right now, it's a 2-1 lead for the hometown Toronto Maple Leafs, looking to go up 3-2 in the Norris Division Final. And, Jim, as we take a look at what's gone on in the first period, it's easy to see that St. Louis, also early in this game and also in game number 4, a little bit off their concentration, what they should be thinking about in the game.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a Leaf plan to crowd the net. After game 4, Curtis Joseph said, I admit, it did take me off my game, but I will not allow that to happen again. Well, folks, he did allow it to happen. You'll see the Leafs continue the same smart game plan. There's number 18, Kent Manderville, a little extra bump on Joseph. Joseph knows it's an extra bump. Now, Foligno's going to get pushed in. Watch the stick of Joseph, give him a little chop right there. Okay, he's trying to get a message across, but he gets a penalty. Moments later, this is a power play goal, an empty netter for Dave Anderchuk. The Blues also got into trouble, bad penalties, with Ron Wilson taking a neutral zone hold. So there's 2 bad penalties, 2 power play goals for the Leafs. The the Blues are going to have to play with more discipline if they want to win this hockey game.
All the goals in the first period were power play goals. Now, Detroit is merely about 3.5, 4 hours away from Toronto, but they're light years away as far as being in the playoffs. A very disappointed bunch down the road.
Well, let's face it, a lot of people think Detroit ought to be playing tonight. They should have beaten Toronto, 7th game at home. Guys like Yzerman on the team, Fedorov, and they don't come through, which means it's time to maybe shake things up in Detroit. First order of business, probably coach general manager Brian Murray. Word is he's probably going to step down, remain as general manager. He'll be pointing some guys out of town, though, and one of those guys could be Bob Probert. Not as much of a factor anymore. Guys like Keith Primo in there. Another, well, the goaltending fell apart for Detroit in the playoffs, and although Tim Cheveldae came up with over 100 wins in the past 3 regular seasons, not getting it done in the playoffs isn't going to sit pretty, and he's probably going to be offered around the league. Detroit makes some changes. In addition, we should point out with Detroit, Paul Coffey didn't play that overtime in that final game. A lot of people thought he's on the bench. Could he have played? Still haven't got the final word on his wrist, probably a broken small bone. If he had played, it could have been a very dangerous injury. He wanted to play. They told him to stay in the locker room. He wanted to be out on the bench with the team. So those people that thought maybe Coffey was not playing because he didn't want to play hurt, he could not play.
Yeah, things shaking up for Detroit, and with Mr. Illich owning both the Tigers now, and the Tigers playing as well as they are, he'll want to get his Red Wings with that much power as well. And speaking of baseball, we have baseball following us here in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. It's the White Sox and Bo Jackson against Ken Griffey Jr.
Seasons and a key to their rise to NHL prominence. His finest moment may have come in the 1982 Stanley Cup playoffs when he scored 17 goals in 19 playoff games. The sensational scores led the New York Islanders to their 4th straight Cup title in one of Mike Bossy's many magic moments.
Tomorrow night, live on ESPN.
Welcome back once again to the Dodge Intermission Report. We'll get you back to the Norris Division Final in just a moment. But first, let's update what happened last night in the Patrick Division Final between the New York Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The biggest news, Mario Lemieux. His back allowed him to come back, and he played, and he was hot early on. Didn't keep him out of the lineup last night, and 19 seconds into the game, past Glenn Healy, 1-0, his 50th career playoff goal. Only 2 points in the series coming in until last night. Then Tocchet to Lemieux to Stevens, back to Tocchet. 2 goals in 54 seconds. That's an NHL record. Al Arbor says we have to talk about this thing before it completely gets away, but they did not talk enough because on the power play, Larry Murphy with a blast. Deflected past Healy, 3-0, just a minute 48 into the game. Frustration for New York. Lemieux and Claude Loisel get into a wrestling match here. Mario prevails. Watch, just tips this one in. 4-1. They win it 6-3, lead the series 3-2. And Rick Tocchet says it's a big effect having number 66 back.
Well, the best way to describe it is, you know, you're getting dressed and you just see Mario walk in the room, and it's just a presence. You know, he's not a rah-rah type of player. And, you know, he just comes in, he's got the big body, and he puts his uniform on, and you just look over, you know, you can look to the right or left, and you just see there's Mario. And it just brings a presence that our team, that confidence, a quiet confidence that, you know, other teams don't have. You know, I kind of have the parallel to Michael Jordan, just as if he comes in the locker room. It's the same type of, you know, feeling that we have.
Michael Jordan on skates, there's a little question. That's what Mario Lemieux is to the Stanley Cup champion Penguins. But what is it for a locker room? When you're a guy, you're lacing up the skates, you know you're a 500 team without the guy, now you know he's playing.
Well, he's such a special individual. I mean, he's really been tested in this hockey season. The things he's had to overcome, Hodgkin's disease, this chronic back injury, not only the physical aspect, but the mental and emotional aspect, I think sets him apart from a lot of other athletes. And when you have a guy like that and you know that he can regain his focus when he's got all these other things that should be weighing him down mentally, he just goes out, he plays. Well, that's an inspiration for everybody in the entire locker room.
The astounding thing to me about Lemieux this year, you know, the finalists for the awards came out today, and people were seriously saying, you know, Pat LaFontaine had a great year, and Doug Gilmour is like God in Canada right now. But I'm telling you, look at the Penguins without Lemieux. People say, look, he's got Stevens and Barrasso and Tocchet and Jágr. They are what you said, John, 500 without him, and it looked like they were beatable in this series when he wasn't playing. The MVP, no questions.
All right, Mario Lemieux will have a chance to wrap things up in the Patrick Division tomorrow night. You can see that here on ESPN as the Penguins take to the island to face the Islanders, 7:30 Eastern time. Ray Ferraro trying to stop that. Meanwhile, Curtis Joseph had no chance in this shot from Bob Rouse. Didn't see it until it was too late. 2-1, the Leafs on top.
The
laboratories of 2001 announce a major breakthrough in auto protectant technology, Formula 2001 Super Protectant. Its advanced sun-stop formula helps protect against damage caused by the sun's UV rays, like fading, drying, and cracking. What's more, independent lab tests prove Formula 2001 shines better and protects longer than Armor All on vinyl and leather. But what if your car's surfaces are already faded? We went to the Arizona desert to see if Formula 2001 Super Protectant could help restore the appearance of these UV faded vehicles. Watch what happens to UV faded vinyl, rubber, even dried faded leather. Get the best protectant under the sun, the one that shines better and protects longer than Armor All. Formula 2001 Super Protectant with a fresh leather fragrance. And for the unique demands of tire care, get new Formula 2001 Tire Foam and Shine. Just spray and walk away. Get 2001 at these fine stores.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Why is it always the same old story? Why ask why? Try a less filling beer with a lot more taste. Bud Dry. When it comes to a great beer, we wrote the book.
In America, your car is not just something you own. It's a part of your life. To give your car complete protection, Texaco has developed Haviland Formula 3 motor oil. With not one, but 3 kinds of protection against heat stress, starting friction, and engine dirt. Haviland Formula 3. Add more life to your car.
They're two of baseball's most electrifying superstars. Bo Jackson and the kid, Ken Griffey Jr., clashed when the White Sox faced the Mariners. Tonight, live on ESPN, Tuesday Night Baseball. June 17th in Toronto, the NHL unveils its award winners. Today, they announced the 3 finalists in 7 categories. Mario Lemieux says Al Morganti should win the MVP. Doug Gilmour's up for that. He's also up for the Selke Trophy. Here's a look at the rest.
Hello, I'm John Smittle, your District Justice in Arnold and New Kensington. As your District Justice, I have many areas of concern. The youth of our community, the safety of the elderly, and most threatening, the drug problem. I have worked hard on those elements that create fear on our streets and in our homes. Progress has been made. Your support is needed on May 18th. Please vote. Thank you.
The prices on new cars and trucks are skyrocketing, with most sticker prices exceeding $15,000 or more. G&L Motors in New Kensington offers a less expensive alternative to new car buying with a fantastic selection of top-quality used cars. Most used cars are 2 years old or less, many with low mileage and available warranties. G&L services every quality used car they sell with their own service department. To make your purchase easy, G&L offers their own financing and notary services. G&L Motors, a logical, less expensive alternative to new car buying.
They're wired for speed on a new course in America's premier cycling event. An international field of champions defy pain and exhaustion as they fight to capture the prestigious Tour de Pont. Tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN.
ESPN's presentation of the Stanley Cup playoffs is brought to you by Visa, honored at over 6 million more places than American Express. Visa, it's everywhere you want to be.
The grand old building on Carlton Street in Toronto, Ontario. Maple Leaf Gardens jammed to the rafters again tonight as the Toronto Maple Leafs try and go up 3-2 on the St. Louis Blues. The Blues, of course, have other ideas. As we're just about set for the second period. With John Davidson, I'm Tom Mees, and it was a very interesting period in front of the net of one Curtis Joseph.
Early in the period, Curtis Joseph used his goal stick a lot. And I think the referee probably watched this stuff and watched it and watched it. Finally, a little later, gave Joseph a penalty. And then later in the period on the power play, you'll see Zombo can't move Andreychuk. The legs are really spread. He's got great position. Zombo tried to use his foot to stop the point shot and ended up ricocheting the puck right past Joseph, the goaltender. Watch Zombo's left leg. Well, trying to check Andreychuk, he reached out with his foot, knocked the puck past the goaltender. Andreychuk never even got a point on the play. Those two thought he should have.
Well, no, those two guys, you might think that they're weirdos, but they're really chief executive officers of two of Toronto's biggest corporations, and this is what they do after the office closes. Hey,
a couple of the airlines I've been flying lately.
I want to quickly point out it's not Air Canada.
No, absolutely not. Wonderful, wonderful.
There's Curtis Joseph warming up, chopping up the ice at his goal creases. The shot on goal. Actually, you know, at one time it was 6-0 Toronto. Then St. Louis actually tied it at 6. But at the end of the first period, the Maple Leafs started to exert their influence again, and they outshot the Blues 12-6. Felix Potvin doing his loosening up exercise. I can't imagine how a goalie could loosen up in a building as hot and humid as this one.
He never got much work at all, mostly on the one power play prior to the goal being scored. St. Louis never had a rebound shot all period long. Joseph, he really has to retain his focus in front of the net. You'll have lots of traffic there again this period. When we were in Buffalo, Tom, for the game on the weekend in which Montreal ousted the Sabres, Patrick Roy kept his focus the whole game. The Sabres bumped him, drove him into the net on occasion. Patrick Roy just got up and stopped the puck. And I think the players sense that when a goaltender keeps his control, the players, his teammates, keep control. And Curtis Joseph has to find a way to simply worry about the puck and nothing else.
These are two very young men in goal tonight. 21-year-old Felix Potvin for Toronto, 26-year-old Curtis Joseph for the Blues. And sometimes emotions run high. Way back on to start the second period. McCown trying to keep it into the St. Louis zone, but Ron Wilson carries it out. Wilson's got Lowry and Brett Hull with him, and an early penalty whistle by Dan Maruelli, charging the call on St. Louis, Dave Lowry. So just like that, the Maple Leafs go back to the power play. Lowry is having a hard time fathoming the call.
And it's called charging. It's just inside the Toronto blue line. You'll see Krushelnyski. Now watch from the left. The hit from the blind side. Now, I don't know where the puck was, but if it was near Krushelnyski, that's not Lowry's fault. That's Krushelnyski's fault that he had his head down. And I'm not so sure that I agree with the call. I mean, that's a neutral zone body check. You've got to have body checking. And if the puck was right there near Krushelnyski, it's called charging. There was no charge. Lowry glided in to throw the body check, shoulder first, blindsiding Krushelnyski. And if Krushelnyski wants to look at the puck, that's not Lowry's fault.
Well, the Maple Leafs scored on 2 of their 3 power play opportunities in the first period. Let's see what happens now. Gilmore skates to the other side of the red line and dumps it into St. Louis zone. Murray Barron tries to clear, but Mironov is there to keep it in. Dmitry Mironov. Pass over to Gill. Gill looking. Gilmore behind the net. Wojciechowski in the corner. Todd Gill, Mironov's got some room, gets it to Borshevsky. Mironov tees it up, and it never gets to the goal, knocked down by the defense.
Well, we had that same battle again, Tom. It was in front, Zombo and Andreychuk. Zombo now finally gets a chance to go to the bench for a change. Andreychuk stays on. Remember, he had 32 power play goals during the regular season, Andreychuk did.
Dmitry Mironov up to Borshevsky. Nikolai Borshevsky. Native of Siberia, tries to keep it in. Butcher gets it away and knocks it down the other end of the ice under a minute to go now in the Toronto power play. Well, Mironov behind his own net. Wilson almost took it off his stick. Andreychuk with a long reach corrals it. Icing will be the call if Butcher can get there first, and the Maple Leafs make a miscue on the power play.
And did Todd Gill make Butcher pay? And it was a good clean hit. As Butcher touched the puck for icing, he was throttled into the backboards. And here in Toronto, these boards and glass do not budge. Watch Gill play the body as Butcher plays the puck. Good, clean
hard, crunching hit. And look at the glass of boards. I mean, they don't budge. In Buffalo, the other night, they give 6 or 8, 10 inches, and it becomes a sponge. And the players don't feel the effects nearly as bad as what you do here. And Butcher was absolutely throttled on the play. However, as tough as he is, he stays on the ice.
Oh, yeah, and he'll probably give in kind in a few minutes. So the face-off to the left of Felix Potvin. It's the Maple Leafs on the power play. 34 seconds left in their man advantage. 2-1, Toronto leads it. Second period. Basson and Krushelnyski on the face-off. And Basson wins this one, but Toronto control.
With the power play for Toronto, they just send everybody to the puck and finally got it back.
Basson to Wilson. Wilson gets a good shot, shorthanded. And a save by Felix the Cat Potvin. Here comes Wendell Clark now up the left wing. 20 seconds to go on the Toronto power play. Clark leaves it for Elliott. And the Blues, Garth Butcher blocks it, and the St. Louis Blues clear the zone. Good play by Butcher.
Basson was down in the Toronto zone. Toronto had a 5-on-3. Never got the puck to the goal.
Jeff Brown, the long shot the other side of the blue line. Potvin the stick save. And the teams are now 5 aside. The penalty is up to Dave Lowry of St. Louis. So the Blues survive that shorthanded situation. Curtis Joseph with Clark cruising in.
See what Joseph has to do, Tom? He has to cross his hands to handle the puck. He's not a left-handed shot. He's a right-handed shot. And that takes a lot more time to be able to handle it for a goaltender.
McCown keeps it in the St. Louis zone. Lost a lazy shot in, and the Blues clear it. Sylvain Lefebvre sends it right back in. Kurt Giles goes back for it. He and Quintal on the back line. Brett Hull with it. He's got Janney cruising down the slot, but the pass to Janney intercepted by Zezel. And here's a 2-on-1. Berg has Osborne, but a nice play by Kurt Giles cutting off the centering pass. That could have been trouble. Zezel. Osborne corrals that pass. Back to Zezel. Peter Zezel, the spinorama move around the goal. Off the stick of Joseph. Brett Hull wheels out of his own zone. Shanahan. Zezel falls down. Janney controlled momentarily, but it goes away to Berg. Berg dumps in for a change. Zezel left alone in the corner. This is Janney. Berg Janney. Pass for Shanahan momentarily intercepted. Rich Sutter knocked down at center ice. Andrechuk to Eastwood. Eastwood gets it over to Gill to Andrechuk. The puck deflected in front. Never got through to Joseph. Worszewski's centering pass, and Worszewski avoided a heavy check. Puck bouncing high over the net. Puck out to the point, but not out. Elliott gets it into Eastwood. In front, score!
Tom Andrechuk was still in the zone because he lost his glove. He still doesn't. There it is. He's finally going to get it back. He would have left the zone completely, but he was reaching down for his glove in the corner and then realized the puck was coming back. He's still in the corner. Watch this. Look at him. He's going to get his glove. He says, oh, I better get back in the play. Now he comes in front, and he'll chop a rolling puck right underneath Curtis Joseph, and it's 3-1 Toronto. Great play right here to get the puck down low. One glove, one bare hand. Andrechuk was there, and he chopped the rolling puck in behind the goaltender.
Well, Dave Andrechuk's second goal of the night. And his 10th goal of the playoffs. 4 minutes and 38 seconds the time. And what a trade that's turned out to be for the Maple Leafs, sending Grant Fuhr to Buffalo in exchange for Dave Andrechuk. Not that Fuhr did not play well in Buffalo, he did, but Andrechuk's been outstanding here.
Really helped both teams, and Darren Poopa, the backup goaltender for Toronto, he put in some good work here for the Leafs at the same time.
Well, time's a wasted now for the Blues. Why do I say that? Well, they're down 2 on the road. You don't want to get down 3 against this Toronto team, where they can clamp it down on you defensively. Next goal for St. Louis, very important indeed. And a pass, and we're going to have a face-off with 14:49 left to go in the second period. They're buzzing in Toronto. The Leafs lead it by 2.
Both Visa and American Express Gold cards can get you to La Roche-Guyon, one of the prettiest towns in France. But should something go wrong here, only Visa Gold can get you out.
You had to come to France, right?
Don't start, Marty.
Because La Roche-Guyon's only towing service
No, we're not getting a tow truck. I can get this out.
doesn't take American Express.
Oui?
Visa Gold, delivering what really matters.
Jamal's France.
Honey, that means I eat France.
It's everywhere you want to be.
Yeah, how far away do you think I can get in 72 hours?
I wouldn't trust my car past the city limits.
For the way you travel today more than ever, the smart money is on budget. Save $15 now when you use the American Express card at budget. The smart money is on budget.
ESPN's National Hockey Night rolls on from Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens, and the Maple Leafs are rolling on, leading this game 3-1. 2 goals of the 3 off the stick of Dave Andrechuk.
The last 9 goals scored in this series, Toronto scored 7 of them. It tells you how well they've been playing. They've owned the front of the net of St. Louis.
They solved the
absolutely
mystery.
owned it.
They solved the mystery of Curtis Joseph because of it.
They're just a bigger team. St. Louis needs some of their better players to get scoring, obviously. But St. Louis, if you look at it, really do not have a number 2 centerman on the team. And when you don't have a number 2 centerman, it's hard to get the scoring chances. The only way you get it is off the forecheck with the hard work and try to set up Brett Hull, as we just saw. But you only have one Craig Janney on this team. You don't have another real good second-line centerman to set up scoring chances. Not much off the rush. Here you'll see the Blues work the puck deep and in challenge. And challenge. Lefebvre had a hold of Brett Hull's stick in front. You see just hard work. Nothing more than that from the Blues. Nothing fancy whatsoever.
Felix Potvin, 21-year-old rookie. They told him to start the season, listen, son, don't bother to buy a house up here. Just rent an apartment. Don't know how long you're going to be here. They sent him down. Didn't send him down for very long, did they? Face-off now in the Toronto zone, controlled, rather in the Maple Leaf zone. That's right, controlled by Toronto's Glenn Anderson, who carries it all the way up ice and lost a shot in on goal. It's the side of the net, and Joseph and Giles have to cover up with Mike Foligno right there in front, buzzing.
Mike Foligno has a plate in his leg, held together by a number of screws. He went through a badly fractured leg. He's thinking about having the plate removed this summer once the playoffs are all finished with. He was told before the playoffs started by Pat Burns that he would be a key player for them because of his playoff experience. His know-how at how to play in the playoffs with a big physical player becomes a much more valuable player, knowing you play every second night. And he's been a factor, a big one here in this game. He's just a powerful guy. Tough to move away from the front of the goal.
Don't forget the goal he got in Game 5 in Detroit in overtime. Give the Leafs a 3-2 lead in that series. Todd Gill lining up. Joseph has to close the pads and cradle it to his gut again.
Another shot on goal off a face-off that's won by Toronto in the St. Louis zone. And Toronto has won every area of this game to this point. They've been better on the power play. Watch here, Krushelnyski against Bass. Bass is facing the boards and he still can't win the draw. And you'll see the puck. They move back across right here, and then the high shot, actually too high by Todd Gill, right into the logo on the jersey of Curtis Joseph, so no rebound. But Toronto has controlled every single area in this game.
Budweiser Stanley Cup summary. 29 of the 61 games decided by a goal. Close, I guess. Montreal's got the top power play. The Blues, the top penalty-killing teams. And a record 19 overtime games and counting. And 10 of those 19, they're won by the road team. That may surprise some folks.
If this one goes into overtime, it doesn't have that look right now. Remember this, Dan Marawelli, the referee, he has called 9 lifetime overtime penalties.
So he's not afraid.
He's not afraid at all to make the call.
I like that. Here's Brett Hull.
I don't know if I do.
Well, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Puck loose in the Toronto zone behind the net, and a whistle for a face-off. Or as Maruelli called a penalty. No, all of it's icing all the way down to the St. Louis zone.
Icing against the Blues, that they're being pressured again. Bob Barry knew, and he made the defense change by putting Kurt Giles in. I think he knows that his team has spent so much time in their own zone that after a while it becomes taxing, and the defensemen get overworked. Period after period after period. Remember, 2 of those games went into double overtime, and the puck hardly got out of the Blues zone. I mean, that's been a lot of wear and tear on this defense. Now, Bob Basson will again take a draw for his hockey club. Brett Hull skates over to the bench for the change. Now let's watch Basson and see if he faces the boards. Looks like Hull and Bob Barry having some words there.
Yeah.
But Basson now, look at as he's facing the linesman, he's trying to find a way to gain leverage and win a face-off draw.
Hull and Barry are still having some words in at St. Louis bench. Rich Sutter with it down the corner for the Blues, just dumps it out. We're going to have another icing call. If Mironov gets there first, we will. He does, and again, the face-off deep in the St. Louis zone. Not what you want when you're down 2 goals on the road, trying to catch up. Dmitry Mironov getting the most playing time he's had in any game this series tonight.
Absolutely, that's something very noticeable. He developed a very bad abscess with one of his teeth, and it became infected, lost a good deal of blood. And this was about a month prior to the end of the season. And you lose a lot of blood from your system, you lose a lot of your strength, and it takes a long time to regain it. Pat Burns knew that he just simply didn't have the strength and wasn't in great game shape, so he didn't play him much. But here in this game, I guess Pat Burns liked the way he looked early in the game. He's gone with him since.
Philippe Boson on for one of his rare shifts tonight, dumps it in behind the Toronto net.
A penalty away from the puck
on Toronto.
Manderville was being involved with one of the Blues players. It might have been Butcher, way behind the play along the far boards, and a penalty handed out as Manderville goes, and the Blues now have a power play that has to work for them. Tom, even if they don't score, they've got to find a way to develop offense and get some form of an offensive flow going.
That's a big opportunity now for St. Louis as Brett Hull immediately makes his presence known on the ice. Behind the play as Pat Burns shakes his head, but Manderville didn't argue at all with Dan Maruelli.
Pat Burns will always try to work the referee. Doesn't agree with many calls that go against his own team. See Manderville here, he's with Sutter. Now he'll hold Sutter up along the boards, and Sutter had to fight to get away and to get back into the play. You see, his team has the puck. St. Louis has the puck. Bozon had the puck, and Manderville kept Sutter out of the play from getting back in. So that's why the interference was called.
At 6 minutes and 43 seconds, Hull and Senzel to face off. Peter Senzel, no. Janney controls it. Brown back around the net. Shanahan, he hasn't been heard from tonight. Brendan Shanahan in front and tried to center instead of shooting. Shanahan had all sorts of room.
He centered it to Brett Hull, who did get the shot. Potvin did make the save. Hull can one-time the pass if he has the puck coming out of the left corner. The Blues have to develop their power play in the other corner, the other side of the ice, and then with a pass across, Hull can wind up and shoot without stopping the puck.
Shanahan tries to leave it for Hull, but Senzel was there and clears the zone for Toronto. A minute 20 left to go in the St. Louis power play. Blues have one power play goal tonight, that by Brett Hull, their only marker of the game. Shanahan, the quick shot, good save by Potvin. Got the right leg out there. Osborne clears it for Toronto to Doug Gilmour. Boy, he does everything for this team, doesn't he? Number 93. Nelson Emerson with a nice pass off the boards, and the Blues break in. And offside to call. They said that Craig Janney was offside. Or was it Shanahan?
Well, it was a great play by Rouse to knock the puck back outside the blue line just barely. And the Blues put themselves offside. Pressure, penalty killing by this Toronto Maple Leaf Hockey Club. You'll see here, Shanahan will have the puck behind the goal. Look at Brett Hull in front. Shanahan opts for the pass. The strength of Brett Hull as he battled McCowan in front for the shot. Now watch Rouse here. Chip the puck over the blue line. Now it's dragged back in, and the Blues are offside, and that stops the flow of their power play, and it forces St. Louis into putting their second unit on the ice, which means Brett Hull now moves back to the point.
57 seconds left in the St. Louis power play.
And it looks like Bob Barry will go with Basil McRae on the power play, as I think he fully understands that they've got to find a way to put people in front of Potvin for Brett Hull to use the shot from the point.
National Hockey Night on ESPN. Game 5 North Division Finals. From Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. Series tied at 2. Leafs lead the game 3-1. With John Davidson, I'm Tom Mees. Hope you're enjoying the action tonight on ESPN. Baseball follows our hockey game tonight. White Sox in Seattle. Blues trying to put some pressure on, but Dave Elliott corrals a loose puck, and he'll skate it out himself. Trying to hit a breaking Gilmore, but a two-line pass is called. We'll have a face-off with 31 seconds remaining in the Blues power play.
You watch Toronto kill penalties. St. Louis just tried the breakout from their own zone, and all the way up ice, they couldn't make 2 passes in a row to click. You'll see from behind the net. Watch the first pass, it clicks. Now the second pass is going back to the little pass. Now we'll see if it works. Cross the ice because there's pressure. Brett Hull couldn't handle the puck. There's a pass that works. Let's see if there's another one that works. No, pressure here by Rouse. Even though Toronto's a man down, they're not allowing St. Louis to come up with any authority and real confidence on their power play.
Blues win this one, and Brown the shot, and Cutbass on at the last minute.
Yeah, there's a face-off win by the Blues. That may have caught the face mask. Potvin, what a rocket that was by Brown.
What a shot indeed. 15 seconds now to go on the power play. Intercepted by Gilmore. They gave the puck away, and Brown had to cover up. Doug Gilmore still with it for Toronto. Just lagging the time. And that should pretty much do it for the power play as it goes deep in the St. Louis zone. Manderville stepping out in 1 second of the teams are now 5 aside. Brett Hull with it at center ice for St. Louis. Hull, he's on the rush and onside. Trying to control it. Manderville breaks it up. And loose to center. Brown just dumps it back in for a line change. Foligno trying to hit a breaking Glenn Anderson, but the play was covered to the blue line. Anderson just dumps it back in for a Toronto change. 3-1 Toronto leading the St. Louis Blues. Game 6 Thursday night, St. Louis Arena. There is a Game 7 in this series. It would be Saturday night right here at Maple Leaf Gardens. Dave Elliott, checked by Philippe Pouzon, gets around him and carries all the way to the St. Louis zone. Elliott in deep and gets a good shot away at Joseph, who makes the glove save. 10 minutes, 28 seconds remaining, second period. That man, Felix Potvin's team leads by 2 goals.
Lisa's great, but there's something about Sharon. Sharon's okay, but Lisa, whew, what a knockout.
Why is the grass always greener on the other side?
You lucky dog.
Lucky dog.
Why ask why?
Try a less filling beer with a lot more taste. Bud Dry. It's one thing.
Nice.
That's beyond question.
What do all these police officers have in common?
My name is Patrolman James New, and I was shot once Bob Parcell, and I was shot right above the heart.
Every year, more police officers are shot.
Point-blank range.
Yet fewer die, thanks to an innovative DuPont fiber called Kevlar in bullet-resistant vests.
Tina Dillard, and I was shot twice at close range.
Being a police officer is always going to be dangerous, but it doesn't have to be fatal. DuPont, better things for better living.
There's all the vital statistics. The biggest one, Toronto with a 2-goal lead. It was almost cut to 1 here, but Felix Potvin quick on that rocket off the stick of Jeff Brown as the Blues won a rare face-off, and Brown let it go. It was a rising shot that appeared to hit Potvin either high on the left arm or maybe up near the face mask. Basson almost skated in unhindered into the Toronto zone. The puck comes back loose to center. Glenn Anderson. Anderson up the right wing looking. Behind the net for Foligno, but Basson is there first for St. Louis. Basson is such a pain in the neck to Jeremy Roenick in the series against the Blackhawks. Taking off the puck. Dave Lowry behind the Toronto net. Pouzon fighting for it, and Toronto cleared. Under 10 minutes to go, second period. Blues want to change, so they dump it in behind Potvin. Foligno takes one high from Igor Korolev up around the helmet. Anderson dumps it into St. Louis zone. Blues dump back out. Back and forth we go. Andrechuk takes it away from Giles, but Wilson is right there for St. Louis. Basil McRae rushing in there along with Todd Gill for possession, and Gill gets to it. Zombo catches the clearing pass. Wilson takes a good hit from Gilmore. Potential 3-on-3. Borshevsky's got room, and the shot is knocked down by Barron in front. Borshevsky trying to get the rebound. Score!
Oh, man. Curtis Joseph relaxed. He was thinking there was going to be a whistle because the puck was caught up in Barron's equipment. And little Nikolai Borshevsky playing with a cracked orbital bone. You see, this shouldn't happen. It's a 3-on-3. It's defended pretty well. Right here, the shot's blocked. Now watch the goaltender. Just watch the goaltenders. Watch him. Oh, he relaxes now. And all of a sudden, the puck slides by. There was no whistle. The puck will drop down. And Borshevsky, a little backhand through traffic. Joseph wasn't even looking for the puck. Forgot about it. Thinking that there should have been a whistle, but there wasn't. And with him relaxing here, it cost his team a goal. It's now 4-1.
Joseph's complaining to Ron Finn, but let's be accurate about this. That puck, there shouldn't have been a face-off. It was loose. The referee could see it. The puck dropped down, and he's asking Joseph why wasn't there a face-off, and Ron Finn's explaining it.
There's no indication at all of a goaltending change from the Blues bench. Again, Borshevsky gets nailed. The puck will finally drop down. There it is. Tricky little shot, and I think Joseph is probably more embarrassed than anything else. That's a bad goal to allow. And remember, he took a penalty, which led to a power play goal against. As great as he's been, and take nothing away from him, he's been fabulous for the Blues. The main reason the Blues got into the playoffs in the first place. But here, he just has not had a strong game.
So the Maple Leafs on Borshevsky's goal take a 3-goal lead at 4-1. And now we're able to exert full pressure. The type of game that they play the best, tightening it down offensively, playing a defensive counter-punching type of game. The Blues are going to be forced to open it up. Borshevsky from Gilmore and Todd Gill. They say at 11-11.
And that means that Wayne Gretzky's been tied by Gilmore for the scoring lead. And the fans all over Joseph right now.
Yeah, he made a routine save. They gave him that big mock cheer.
He's been the key on the good side of games and now on the other side of games.
Quintal behind the St. Louis net. Rich Sutter can't control the breakout pass. The Leafs were almost caught in a line change. If Sutter could have controlled that, he might have been in business. And they're shouting, Curtis.
I like this too. St. Louis starting to dump the puck in a little more. They've tried all game long to carry it over the blue line, and they've had no chance of making that happen. So now they're trying a little different strategy, it looks like.
Wendell Clark at center, pulls up. Joseph comes out to make a glove save, and he'll clear it to Rich Sutter. Rich Sutter avoids the check by Clark. Murray Barron has a dribble off his stick, and Eastwood sends Vanderbilt away. Vanderbilt cuts for the net. Clark's the shot to save Joseph.
See who Clark moved in on? Two forwards. Brett Hull and Basson were the only two back as the Blues were trying to make a change with a defenseman, and they got caught.
Timeout for a face-off. 6:57 to go, second period. They are loving it in Toronto.
Introducing the power of intelligent engineering, Oldsmobile for 1993. Take advantage of special introductory savings on the complete line of new Oldsmobiles at Ferranti Oldsmobile in Vandergrift. Ferranti invites you to experience the comfort and control, the quality and the value. Ferranti Oldsmobile is one of the greater Pittsburgh area's oldest and most respected automotive dealerships, with an outstanding reputation for customer satisfaction. Visit Ferranti Oldsmobile today on Jackson Avenue in Vandergrift and discover the difference experience makes.
Judge Bill Sellis is a full-time district justice, having already dispensed justice in over 300 cases in our area, tempered with wisdom, experience, integrity, and a common-sense approach. Judge Bill Sellis is a respected, qualified family man, concerned about our youth and about protecting our senior citizens from abuse, theft, and fraud, and he knows when to get tough. We need to keep Judge Bill Sellis doing the job for you. On May 18th, vote to keep Bill Sellis, our district justice in the Lower Valley.
Welcome back to a festive Maple Leaf Gardens with John Davidson, Tom Mees. It's been all the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight.
The Maple Leafs have never, ever played this late. May 11th. They've never played a May 11th game before, and it looks pretty good for them. During the television timeout, Joseph was over talking to the referee and very animated. Shoulders shrugged, stick up in the air. You wonder if it's still bothering him. Is it eating away? He relaxed. It cost his team a goal. I think he was probably more embarrassed than anything else that had happened.
Went out and had a debate, really, with Ron Finn, the linesman, but Finn was just explaining, look, the whistle shouldn't have been blown, and as they say when you climb in the ring, protect yourself at all times. Joseph didn't not play. Foligno carries into the St. Louis zone.
The Blues have Korolev, a centerman, playing left wing now with Brett Hull and Wilson. Earlier, it had been Lowry in that position. He looked like he was bumped and hurt earlier during this period. Lowry, I'm talking about.
Take a look at the Visa storyline. Brett Hull scoring his 50th career playoff goal tonight. That's the only marker of the game for the Blues. Nikolai Borshevsky's had a good night, a goal and 2 assists. And Doug Gilmour, as John has mentioned, is tied to Wayne Gretzky now with 2 assists tonight, tying Gretz for the playoff scoring lead. Of course, Gretzky plays out in Vancouver a little bit later tonight. He may have something to say.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure Vancouver may too.
Well, that's a tough series.
The only lineup change I hear regarding Los Angeles is that Shuchuk may go in place of Waters, a defenseman, so the change would be a situation where LA would play 6 defensemen instead of 7. And Los Angeles, they played 10 playoff games, only one's been close.
Yeah.
That was a 3-1 score with Calgary, and one of those goals was an empty netter. Every other game has either been very good for Los Angeles or very bad. No middle ground.
And that game will be played much later tonight in Vancouver, British Columbia. Garth Butcher dumps it into the Toronto zone. Sylvain Lefebvre.
You'll see Brett Hull now get lots of ice time.
Good ask if they're going to double shift.
Absolutely.
Lefebvre in the corner. Wilson pinching in. Brown can't keep it in, and the Leafs clear. Joseph will leave it for Garth Butcher. The crowd really on Joseph. A lot of signs here around Maple Leaf Gardens really getting on Joseph's case after Game 4.
Well, he showed some emotions, and maybe wrongly. And he's finally showing some cracks in the old armor, as they say.
Well, we got a penalty, I believe, from Dan Mariuelli. We'll have to see. Let's remind you, more Stanley Cup action coming up on ESPN Thursday. A doubleheader. We'll have Game 6 of this series in St. Louis. The Blues and the Maple Leafs will be the last game of the series. We'll have to see. Note the starting time, 8 o'clock Eastern time, 8 Eastern. Followed by Game 6 of the LA Kings and the Vancouver Canucks from the Great Western Forum in Los Angeles. That game will be following the Leafs-Blues game from St. Louis. So another hockey doubleheader Thursday night. No penalty call by Mariuelli, just a face-off to the right of Felix Potvin.
In 1982, Vancouver played Los Angeles in the playoffs. Barry Melrose, the Kings head coach, was asked about it. He said, 82, huh? All I remember about Los Angeles in 1982 is they had ugly, ugly uniforms, and that the Clampetts came from Beverly Hills.
You know something? Vancouver didn't have very pretty uniforms back then either.
Good point.
Ellett to center ice. Zessel controls, but he's 1-on-4, so he'll dump it in. Oh, Joseph almost left it for an open Osborne, who had crept in behind him. Now Zessel in the corner.
Tom, that was a play where Curtis Joseph has to cross the hands on his goal stick to handle the puck. That takes time. It took too much time there, and he lost control of the puck as it came around the back of the net.
Greg Janney tries to center. Nelson Emerson with it. Shanahan using the body behind the Toronto net, but nothing doing. 4-1 Toronto. 5 minutes even left here in the second period from Maple Leaf Gardens. Winner goes up 3-2 going into Game 6. Toronto's looking good right now. Puck goes into the crowd. We'll have a face-off, and that young man has a souvenir of the Stanley Cup.
I'll get it, Olga. It's the Americans. They brought Miller Lite.
Americans are here, and they brought Miller Lite.
If you're on a mission for great taste that's less filling, Miller Lite. It's everything you want a beer to be.
Oh, God, we don't have salsa. Someone say salsa?
You like it?
Is that new Bonneville yours?
They really changed it, haven't they?
That's sharp. I figured you for a BMW or a Lexus.
Well, I checked them out. But with the Bonneville, I got everything I wanted. Leather, airbag, anti-lock brakes, and the power, the handling.
Mind me asking?
It was 10, 20,000 less than the BMW or Lexus.
We are driving excitement, Pontiac.
I like it.
Me too.
So far tonight, St. Louis singing the blues, trailing the Toronto Maple Leafs 3 goals. 4-1 is the score on the board. We're back underway under 5 minutes to go, second period. John Saunders and Schoenfeld and Al Morganti waiting for our intermission report. The Leafs clear the zone. Stefan Quintal goes back for St. Louis. Philippe Bozon. Clark carries back in. They rule it offside.
What do these three have in common? Gilmore, Muller, and Jerry. They're all from the same town here in Ontario, Kingston, Ontario. And Don Cherry was a lot of fun. Make sure that the whole world knows about it. Kirk Muller having a fabulous series in Montreal. Doug Gilmore, of course, not only a great series, but a great season with Toronto. And Don Cherry,
he's always having a great year.
He can run for prime minister in this country and win, I'm telling you.
Tell you, you notice the collar, the exaggerated shirt collar for Don Cherry. He has those shirts made in Boston, he told me.
Well, don't whisper that around this country.
Especially made in Boston. That's really one of his trademarks. Where's Don Cherry? Coach of the Boston Bruins a few years back.
Cost the Rangers a Stanley Cup. When they lost to Montreal in '79, his team took a too many men on the ice penalty, allowing Montreal to tie the game up late and then win in overtime. And I'm convinced to this day, nobody will agree with me. The Rangers want to beat the Bruins.
You were upset at that, weren't you?
Wayne Cashman and others will disagree, I'm sure. But I will challenge them on it.
Under 4 minutes to go.
Montreal whipped us in 5.
Yeah, I remember that.
By far the better team.
I remember that, John. I wasn't going to bring it up. Borshevsky up the right wing boards. So you fellas felt that if you'd have played Boston, you'd have had a shot.
Well, after we lost to Montreal, we did.
Gilmore almost deflected in. The 5th goal of the night for Toronto. Barron tied him up, though, on a faceoff as the net comes off the mooring. Now, Major League Baseball, a big part of our menu here on ESPN. We'll have it right after the game tonight, and we're also going to have it tomorrow at 10:30 Eastern Time from Oakland. Mark McGuire and the A's take on Jose Canseco, the Rangers. Yes, Jose making his first foray back into his old stomping grounds this year. Remember the trade late last season sent Jose Canseco to the Texas Rangers. So Canseco and McGuire, once teammates, now competitors. That's tomorrow night on ESPN. We'll take a look at the right eye of Doug Gilmore. The little guy, John, but he's taken a beating in the playoffs.
He is without a doubt Toronto's best player with the puck, and without a doubt Toronto's best player without the puck. And not often do you find a star that can carry both ends of the ice. It'll be very interesting to see the negotiations during the offseason here in Toronto. Who will get into the office first, Pat Burns, the coach, or Doug Gilmore, the player? And both deserve wonderful contracts.
I bet you Burns beats him to it. Blues pressing. Jeff Brown got a shot. Puck by the save. Rebound is there, but no blue on it. Oh, Jeff Brown has 2 of the best shots for St. Louis tonight.
Very high shots, though, trying to hit the top corner.
Anderson wheels and deals into the zone. Blocked off by Brown. Zezel and Foligno got the centering pass. Couldn't control it. Andrechuk behind the net, and Kutcher takes it off his stick and clears to center. Nelson Emerson wheeling into the Toronto zone. To Shanahan. To Emerson. He shoots and no! And a save by Potvin.
That was a 3-on-2, Tom. Potvin's best save.
The save of the night as Potvin Sliding from his left to his right, getting the leg out there.
These forwards for Toronto got trapped deep, and then they were interfered with, and that was a very long, as far as time goes, 3-on-2. Potvin with a fabulous save.
Sutter puts one wide to the stick side of Potvin. The Blues just firing a lot of rubber now. Maybe that's their best strategy on Felix Potvin. Fire it whenever you get in there, boys. Because Toronto's done that with Curtis Joseph, and it's worked. Sylvain Lefebvre. But Sutter tries to clear, can't do it. Under 2 minutes to go, second period. 4-1 Toronto. And the puck covered up. Will have a face-off with 1:48 left in the second.
Pat Burns won't be happy with the fact that three of his forwards got trapped deep, especially with a 4-1 lead. You try to make sure if there's two forwards in deep, not three. Always have one back. And the three Toronto forwards were trapped real deep. And you'll see 3-on-2 with nobody coming back. Beautiful pass across. Emerson took a little bit too long, and you see Potvin sliding across. Shanahan moves one direction, passes the puck back the other way, and there the pads stacked on top of one another for Potvin. He read the play very smartly, moved across, and a great save. One area he has to improve his game with is how he handles the puck. Rick Wamsley, the goalie coach here with Toronto, will have Potvin during the offseason work on his forearms and wrists to get them stronger, so he'll be able to handle the puck a lot better and with more authority as he moves the puck around from his goal.
Blues control the face-out. Korolev to Wilson. And Hull knocks it into the zone. Brett Hull and Igor Korolev go for it. Gilmore comes up with it. Minute and a half to go, second period. Borshevsky at center.
Bob Berry still keeps the same defensive pair as much as possible against Doug Gilmore. That's Barron. As Andrechuk gets knocked down. That's Barron and Zombo as the pair. And an interference call as Joseph ended up losing his goal stick. And Andrechuk now, with the aggressive play around the goal net, will get the penalty. The Blues need something here. Look at Andrechuk. He reaches out with his leg. He had a hold of Wilson's stick, and he also pushed the goaltender at the same time. Goaltenders in the rule book, it is stated, are not fair game. In the goal crease or out. Watch the left leg of Andrechuk. He's doing his best to move into the goaltender, and Joseph, in a very dramatic fashion, helped the play along to make sure that the referee knew.
Well, Andrechuk got his money's worth of that penalty. He had a goal stick and got a goalie on the way to the box. That's not bad for 2 minutes in the sin bin there.
1:18 to go in the second period. Emerson moves back to play the point, so you have four forwards on the ice for St. Louis. Well, Pat Burns has things going his way here. His team has to stay away from a penalty like that in the offensive zone. And in the last 2 or 3 minutes of a period, giving up that long 3-on-2.
And if you're Toronto, though, the bad news is you gave up a power play opportunity late in the period. The good news is you get to split it up. Still about a minute or so now and a minute or so to start the third period when you're fresh.
Unless you score.
Yes, of course. Harris Stefan. Toronto back into St. Louis zone. Jeff Brown has played a great game tonight for St. Louis.
Last minute of play in this period.
To Emerson. Under a minute to go. McCowan just dumped Emerson at the blue line. That's a physical mismatch.
It's a very aggressive leap team. Look at this. Osborne into Hull.
Craig Janney's onside, but Janney has it taken away.
Lefebvre was right there moving in on him.
Oh, a giveaway to Emerson at the blue line, but he loses control. Toronto breaks out 3-on-3. McCowan to Gilmore. And Toronto having fun with it in the St. Louis zone on the Blues power play. They look a bit dispirited, St. Louis here. Brown now carries into the Toronto zone. He's got Shanahan at the point. Emerson in the slot. Janney. Hull is in the slot waiting for a pass. And the shot by Shanahan deflects wide to the corner. Emerson fans on it. Hull is there to help guide it in. Only 4 seconds left in the period. Emerson shoots, and that'll do it for the second period.
For the first 3 games of this series, the Leafs had terrible second periods. They were great in the second period Sunday, And they matched that one with a very strong second period here tonight.
And the Blues will start the third period on the power play. And they'll need it. They trail the Leafs 4-1 after 2. Let's go back to John Saunders. John?
All right, thanks a lot, guys. And the Blues have to be wondering right now, losing 4-1 at home and then down 4-1 tonight after just 2 periods. National Hockey Night continues in just a moment. When we come back, Al and Jim will take a look back at the first period and elsewhere in the National Hockey League as well. And we'll take a look at goaltender Tom Barrasso of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Speaking of goaltenders, Curtis Joseph went to sleep a bit on Borshevsky. So did his defense. This one finds the net, and Toronto leads it 4-1 after 2.
Hey, is that what I think it is?
Yeah, it's my new Wagner Power Painter.
Well, can you edge with it?
Yeah, you can edge like this, or adjust it to control the paint up close. And when I'm done, I'm gonna switch nozzles and stain my deck. Do a lot of other jobs I've been meaning to do.
Well, does it clean up easy?
Yeah, it's quicker than you think.
Why am I painting this by hand?
Good question. Get a Wagner.
When it comes to your financial future, Fortis can help protect you and those you love. Fortis, a worldwide financial services company $46 billion strong. A powerful choice for mutual funds, life and health insurance, employee benefits. A name you can trust around the world and right in your own backyard. Fortis, solid answers for a changing world.
Why use Valvoline motor oil? It's the #1 choice of Indy 500 chief mechanics, Daytona 500 chief mechanics, NHRA mechanics, and Baja 1000 mechanics. For use in their race cars and in their own cars. Any more questions? People who know use Valvoline.
How do you order Miller Genuine Draft Light? The cold filtered light with smooth draft taste at a Fern bar? You don't. MGD Light is far too cool for a Fern bar. Say MGD Light and say no more.
A hot new peanut just rode into town with a spicy taste that's getting everybody all fired up.
Got some more? Maybe you ought to practice with mild.
Try new Planters Heat in mild and hot.
Are you an AT&T salesman?
Yes.
Is your company telling customers that MCI's 800 service isn't reliable?
Yes.
Is that the truth?
Yes.
You might say you don't know me, but you might listen. Or maybe, like my friends, you don't like change. Fair enough.
What?
This is not working.
I can get a temp, but the temp won't know the software.
No, I got it. I just can't open it.
Changing the vertical alignment will change.
Nobody knows it. Nobody uses it.
An insertion point. What?
Jose Canseco leads one of the league's most awesome offenses. The Rangers face the Oakland Athletics. Tomorrow night live on ESPN, Wednesday Night Baseball.
Following tonight's Stanley Cup playoff game, we move to baseball. It's the White Sox and the Mariners. Most of you will see that game. Bo Jackson and Ken Griffey Jr. That's next.
Did you know that stress and certain vitamin deficiencies can cause hair loss and that researchers are growing hair in a test tube? When you call Hair Club for Men, we'll send you this information along with Hair Club's own advances in dealing with hair loss.
I wanted something that looked very natural and also looked very natural when I was skiing and when my hair was very wet.
It made me feel old to be going thin at 24.
Hair Club's innovative techniques in dealing with hair loss will give you the confidence you've always wanted.
I did not ask to lose my hair. And for a long period of time, I thought that I would have no choice. And with Hair Club, I do have that choice.
No matter what sport or activity, your new hair will look and feel like your own.
Now that I have a full head of hair, people that haven't seen me in a while, they don't even know I had anything done. It's like totally natural to them.
So call Hair Club for Men and receive our free brochure, along with some tips that may help you keep the hair you have.
I'm not only the Hair Club president, but I'm also a client.
The quest to qualify for the greatest racing event in the world. See the Indy Time Trials. Sunday at 6 Eastern, live on ESPN.
ESPN's presentation of the Stanley Cup playoffs is brought to you by Miller Lite. It's everything you want a beer to be. And by the new Subaru Impreza. Subaru, what to drive.
Toronto, Ontario, Canada on a warm May evening. And inside the very warm Maple Leaf Gardens, the Leafs have a 3-goal lead heading to the third period. This their most successful season since 77-78. And I spoke with head coach Pat Burns and asked him why the sudden success this year.
I think what the main thing that we try to do with our players is try to make them understand that there's two kinds of hockey games. There's a hockey game with the puck and there's a hockey game without the puck. And I think it's the one without the puck that they don't like playing. But that's the defensive part of the game. I guess that everybody calls me defensive coach, which I'm not really. I just try to make the players understand that, hey, when you don't have the puck, you have a responsibility and a job to do.
Oh, take a look at some of those defensive plays. This is McCowan killing a penalty. Talk about taking the body. Standing up the opposition at your own blue line. Great hit. Now, when your best player could take the body, retrieve the puck in his own zone, and then think offense, other players follow. And Pat Burns, I think, is very fortunate to have that philosophy and have Doug Gilmour as his best player to back up the philosophy.
Now remember, the Blues start this third period on the power play, but only another 33 seconds remain. St. Louis time's a wasting, down 4-1. Nelson Emerson lost a shot in on Potvin, makes the routine save. Shanahan tries to keep it in, but can't. And Brown has to retreat into his own zone, forced by the forechecking Gilmour. 15 seconds left in the St. Louis power play, as Dave Andrechuk took that penalty late in the second period, and this should do it as Gilmour steals the puck away, skates in by himself, and actually lost a backhander on Joseph. 2 seconds, the Science will be even at 5, and the penalty is now up as Brett Hull skates in. Leaves it for Brown. He's got some room, and Potvin comes out. He made the save. I'm not sure if he knew where it was, but he got a body on it. And we take a look quickly at the Miller Genuine Draft Light scoring summary in this game. Andrechuk is first of the night at 6:18 on the power play. Gave it a 1-0 lead for Toronto. Brett Hull on the power play is 8th to the playoffs. Tied it at 1. Then it's been all Toronto. Nikolai Borshevsky and Dave Ellett assisting Bob Rouse. And then Andrechuk scoring again at 4:38 of the second period from Eastwood and Ellett. That made it 3-1. Borshevsky is second at 11:11 from Gilmour and Gill. And it's 4-1 as we start the third.
Toronto has all of its players available here for the third period. St. Louis, it looks like they're minus a man. I think it's Denny Felsner, who scored a power play goal in Game 4 of the series. He does not, I don't think, has not returned to the third period.
Didn't notice that he was hurt at all on that second period. Wendell Clark setting up behind the St. Louis net. Nobody there to check him. All by his lonesome. Got the time waiting for somebody to break loose. Quintal now marks him. And he'll send it back for Manderville. This is Eastwood. Eastwood, the shot, and Joseph to save the rebound in front, and Maruelli blows the whistle for a face-off.
Basson just throttled Manderville. I think Basson upset with the fact that the goaltender again was bumped in the crease, and Joseph gets up very slowly. Now, Kurt Giles had lost his stick. Richie Sutter here hands the stick to the defenseman. Smart play. Now Giles can move across and try and pick his man up. What happens to the goaltender? He's got the puck. And there you see Manderville jamming away as the puck did find a way to get loose. Eastwood, the big kid who has a good scoring touch, gets the shot on goal. Now watch. Basson has his man get loose. And Basson will follow up on Manderville right to the backboards and give him a real good shot. Real good shot. Giles looks around. Good handoff there to get the stick. Now watch in front. Bassin will follow right to the backboards. He'll continue skating here, right to the backboards, and really throttle Manderville for jamming the goaltender.
So the face-off in the St. Louis zone. 18:33 left in the third period. Krushenitsky controls it again. McCowan with a blast. That's just wide to the stick side. Jamie McCowan got everything into that one. The former Calgary Flame dumps it in again. And Foligno and Korolev say, how do you do it? Center ice behind the play. Mike Foligno sending it around the zone. McCown keeps it in at the point. Zombo to Brett Hull, and St. Louis breaks back. Hull the long shot, looking for a rebound, and Potvin has to dive out and force the face-off.
Brett Hull on the ice. Normally, his centerman had been Ronnie Sutter, who's out with a shoulder injury. You mentioned that earlier in the game, Tom. And that certainly takes away from the St. Louis offense. Ron Wilson, the centerman now for Brett Hull. Ron Wilson not nearly as offensive. Brett Hull in 1989-90 had 72 goals. His centerman was Peter Zezel, who now plays with the Leafs and is on the ice to take the defensive draw. I asked him today because I couldn't remember who the left winger was on that line. Sergio Momesso, who's now playing for Vancouver against Los Angeles in the finals of that series. This kid, is he strong? He has to do all kinds of stretching the day of a game because of his thickness of his body. Big, strong, huge thighs and calves. And he'll win a lot of face-offs, not because he'll win the puck clean with a stick, but because he'll out-muscle the other team's centerman.
Try to out-muscle Shanahan. Brendan Shanahan wins this face-off. Brown from the point may have hit the goal stick or maybe the outside of the net.
Outside of the net, the face-off will come outside of the zone because of that. Never went off a Leaf player.
Well, if you're looking for something racy, ESPN is the place to be this weekend. This Sunday, ESPN begins its coverage of the qualifying at the Old Brickyard for the 77th running of the Indy 500. Yes, it's the time trials. Remember last year, Al Unser Jr. won the pole position. Our coverage on Sunday, the second day of trials, begins at 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific time. A special edition of Speed World from the Indy time trial.
We have a 4-1 game here, and Bob Berry, the St. Louis coach, is trying all kinds of combinations. Now he's got Shanahan, Janney, and Emerson. Offense, 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 as he's trying to find a way to climb back into this game.
Now the Blues only scored 1 goal in Game 4. Only 1 goal so far tonight.
And the 1 goal in Game 4 was a power play goal. The 1 goal here is a power play goal. So, I mean, they have been shut right down at even strength. Nothing there.
Mike Foligno, the veteran of so many years in Detroit, also in Buffalo. Now just up the road from Buffalo and Toronto.
Well, as Bill Clement documented on Sunday, when Pat Burns comes up to an older player like Mike Foligno and says, how many chances do you think you have left in your career to try and win a cup to get to the final? And the players that are older start to think about that. And the message gets through. And it certainly worked as Pat Burns continues to push the right buttons here in Toronto.
Round to Emerson in the slot. Emerson takes a beating there. Couldn't control the puck. Garth Butcher pinches in. Can't keep it in for the Blues. St. Louis doing a better job of late on the faceoffs, but still can't get anything really threatening in on Felix Potvin. Brown is in the zone offside. Offside by about 5 strides was Nelson Emerson. The faceoff back out to center. 17:25 to go, third period. ESPN's National Hockey Night from Toronto.
And indeed, Brett Hull getting double shifted. He now comes on the ice with a new set of line mates up front. St. Louis, I think, has to find a way to get more offense involved in their game. Try to send defensemen into the play. Now Brett Hull's on the ice with Korolev, who moves from left wing to center, and Basil McRae. And again, we've talked about Toronto controlling the majority of the faceoffs, even though St. Louis has gotten better as the game's moved along. Ronnie Sutter, out with the injury, is a key faceoff guy. He's a key centerman playing with Brett Hull. And the Blues, without him, just don't have a second centerman to generate offense.
Leafs with it behind their own net. Sylvain Lefebvre up the boards to Andrechuk. This is Borshevsky into the St. Louis zone. Nice job by Barron to take him out of the play. Korolev up to Hull. Andrechuk now for Toronto. 17 minutes and counting here at Maple Leaf Garden. Bad bounce off the boards. Leafs still clear of the zone. It's Gilmore. Doug Gilmore trying to get around Murray Barron. Can't do it. Barron back the other way to Korolev. McRae and McCowan. Into the corner they go. Hull could have gotten to that loose puck. He didn't try for it, and Lefebvre just clears the zone. Here's Andrechuk getting around Barron, but Joseph is there in time. Back the other way is Korolev. St. Louis going to have to score soon to put any semblance of doubt in the final outcome. Less than 17 minutes left in regulation time. The Leafs have this game well in hand, leading 4-1.
How do you order a Miller Genuine Draft Light? The cold filtered light with smooth draft taste at a singles bar?
Give me an MGD Light. Anyone have change for 20? We'll let him in here.
Say MGD Light and say no more.
Some fur. Touch. Some fur. Everyone prefers. Preferred stock cologne from Stetson. What preferred men prefer.
Bought this new Impreza. I got to level with you. I couldn't cut it as a Subaru engineer. Got to be too buttoned up. I tend to be less detail-oriented, you know? Why fold socks, huh? Luckily, whoever put the Impreza together is not like me. This thing has got 4-channel anti-lock brakes. If I built it, it would have had brakes. Very sophisticated, this Impreza. Very together. I like it. So I might wash it.
The Blues are running out of time here. Watch Curtis Joseph, the goaltender. He crosses the hands on the stick. The catching glove at the top. Now he can only go one way. That's to the backhand side. And you can see it works for the Blues on that particular play. The difficult thing for a goaltender to have to do to change hands on the goal stick and move the puck out of the zone.
Play back onto the Toronto end. Rich Sutter pitching in, almost stole the clearing pass. Hopped over his stick, though, and now back in the St. Louis zone. Giles and Vanderbilt collide. It's Korolev now, or is that Bozon?
Bozon, you said that right. You got the French guy.
Philippe Bozon.
And the Russian guy. The French guy was the right guy.
Vanderbilt and Brown going forward over Jeff Brown's stick. And now it's Eastwood and Quintal, and St. Louis Quintal wins the race. Crowd beginning the rhythmic chant. Go Leafs go. Wendell Clark, the Toronto captain. To Foligno in the slot, a save by Joseph. Joseph had to be ready for that one. That's Foligno's favorite territory to shoot from. Brown dumps it out. Janney tries to get around Elliott. Nelson Emerson picks it up, but Foligno checks him off.
Toronto continues to stand up. The Blues continue to try to carry the puck in the zone, and every time St. Louis tries it, the Blues are hit. As Maple Leafs just taking the body, they're doing it smartly and cleanly. Now here you see St. Louis thinking of a breakout. They got all three forwards at center ice. It's just two defensemen to try and move the puck out. They do it nicely here. They're the Leafs. They're staying back, not getting trapped.
Jeff Brown carries it in himself. Janney right behind Brown. A weak shot. Brown trying to dump a loose puck in behind Felix Potvin, but Potvin knew the pressure was coming.
Potvin a little fortunate there. We talked about how Brown had to jump into the offense. Brown had a great scoring year with 25 goals. Only Kevin Hatcher from Washington had more goals with 34. Brown had 12 of the 25 on the power play. The top 10 scoring defenseman in the league, he had the best shooting percentage. Shots on goal to goals scored. And you can see it's been tough. When you join the play like he does a lot, you do a lot more skating than most defensemen do. And that, as the game moves along, becomes tougher on the body. And you can see Brown look to be a little worn out after the shift.
Jeff Brown, the former longtime Quebec Nordique, came over in a trade. December of '89. Remember Greg Millen and Tony Herkus when they played for St. Louis? Well, those are the gentlemen that went to Quebec in return for Jeff Brown. say St. Louis got the better of that deal. Greg Millen's now broadcasting with Ottawa. Korolev. Shot well wide of the stick side. Barron tries to keep it in, but cannot do so. Borshevsky avoided a heavy check at center.
When you're the size of Borshevsky, you learn how to do that.
Yeah.
How to turn quick to avoid getting nailed.
Ron Wilson had him all lined up, too. Andrechuk looking for Gilmore breaking. Joseph gets there first. Rick Sutter fields it with the right hand, can't control. And now here's Borshevsky, but he's 1-on-3. He's got a problem. Still gets it to Zezel, trailing the play. Rouse can't get a handle on it.
See how Rouse turned out to go back to play defense. The Leafs do not want to be trapped and do anything foolish to give St. Louis a 3-on-2.
Mirana. Cross ice and Zezel fanned on it. Boy, Mironov gave him a nice pass, too. Zezel broke his stick. He was a golfer. He would have left a divot about 10 feet deep. He hit so far behind that puck. 12:50 left to go in the third period. It's still the Maple Leafs in control, 4-1.
I want to talk to you about my new Subaru Impreza and explain its relevance to you and me and the car business, okay? Okay. This car is like punk rock. Now, just trust me, this is relevant. Do you remember when rock and roll was really boring and corporate? Well, punk challenged all this and said, hey, excuse me, but here's what's cool about music, remember? Now, Subaru, with this Impreza, is challenging some car thinking here. This car is all about reminding you and me what's great about a car and moving forward and making cars better and less disappointing. Just like punk, except it's cars. Well, I just thought of another analogy.
How do you order Miller Genuine Draft Light? The cold-filtered light with smooth draft taste? At a Fern bar? You don't. MGD Light is far too cool for a Fern bar. Say MGD Light and say no more.
When it's this greasy, you need a more powerful cleaner degreaser. Castrol Super Clean solubilizes grease on contact, neutralizing its ability to stick. So if it won't come clean with Super Clean, it won't come clean.
In Toronto, the Maple Leafs 12 minutes 50 seconds away from going up 3-2 in this best-of-7 Norris Division final. Game 6 will be Thursday night on ESPN from the arena in St. Louis at 8 Eastern time. The Blues look like they're going to have their work cut out. To not only win this game, of course, but maybe to force the 7th game here Saturday night.
Well, St. Louis just has not been able to find offense at even strength, period. They're not getting anything here, as you see how well coached and how disciplined Toronto is. Here again, a force at the blue line. Osborne on Brown. Brown goes to put the puck in the zone and ends up in the stands. A couple of great Canadians here.
Yeah, well, the gentleman with the glasses, who he?
Ken Dryden, and to his left, our right, was Michael Burgess, lead singer in the play of Les Miserables here in Toronto. Ken Dryden, look at these numbers. My goodness. Fine, great goaltender. Curtis Joseph, you see his numbers. Tonight's a problem. He's let more goals in tonight than he has in any other playoff game. Ken Dryden on top, joining names like Parent and Patrick Roy. Wow, what great company.
And all those gentlemen have won Stanley Cups.
Good point, too. I never thought about that one. Absolutely.
Danny Dryden, of course, in his college days, one of the first big stars in college hockey that got national attention when he played at Cornell. Wore the Big Red.
You know, there's only 6 active goaltenders in the league today who have won cups. Andy Mold, Brent Fuhr, Mike Vernon. Billy Ranford, all of those players out of the playoffs and still left in. Tom Barrasso and Patrick Roy. Pretty good company. Wow.
And how many rookie goaltenders have won the Stanley Cup? Don't we get your thinking cap on? Felix Potvin, 21-year-old youngster, and that's for the Leafs.
Ken Dryden, one of them that did.
Yes.
The season that he came up to Cornell. A great series against the Boston Bruins.
12-21 and counting. Baston getting sent for the face-off with Eastwood in the Toronto zone.
It's like the Mets are going to lose again. 6-zip St. Louis.
I told you I wanted news, John. That's not news. Zessel to Clark. Yeah, Dick Torborg and his boys are having it rough this season.
Going to get letters from those Mets fans in town.
I'm used to it. Believe me, I'm used to it. Joseph behind the blue net.
Basil McRae wants a little bit of Wendell Clark, and Kevin Collins, the linesman, steps right in.
Yeah, this is all going on behind the play, and McRae goes behind Clark's back. Wendell says, look at me. I don't do anything, and this guy's cross-checking me, and we finally have a whistle.
Yeah, Basil finally, he wants the whole world right here. He's trying to make a statement. He's a real good team player, but here he's just losing his train of thought. Finally took a penalty. He went nose-to-nose with Wendell Clark. Clark tried to draw him into a penalty, and finally when Basil had had enough of Clark, he skated over and took a run at, I believe, Manderville. And finally, Basil McRae ends up in the box. Now you're going to see a cross-check from behind right here. There. Now watch Clark look over at the referee. So Basil says, enough of Wendell Clark. I better skate over to the other side and throw a body check. And he did illegally.
4 minutes. 4 minutes he gets. John.
That's a pretty interesting call by the referees. Basil McRae here, after the initial penalty, he gets an additional 2 here for going at Clark. You know, Clark reached up with his glove and gave the motion of, oh yeah, chirp, chirp, talk, talk, do what you want to do. And Basil, rightfully so, was given a double minor. A good call by the referee.
Poor Basil, he couldn't find anybody to fight. Slashing and roughing at 8:17.
Pat Burns has instructed his players in the playoffs here not to fight, period. That's a team rule. He's told them, don't fight. And I'm sure if something happened, it was a one-sided game, and he felt that his players should, that may be changed during a game on the bench. But as of right now, why would they? Why should they?
Why should they, right?
And St. Louis takes this one on the chin.
Well, McRae was on the ice the last few seconds in Game 4, trying to stir things up, maybe trying to lay an emotional calling card for this game, but it didn't work tonight. It didn't work then either.
And for the Leafs here, you know, they want to play well in their power play, but their #1 priority is not to give anything up. Just kill off the 4 minutes. That would be around 7.5 minutes remaining, and with a 4-1 lead, they could relax. Not relax, but at least feel more comfortable.
Dmitry Mironov waits for his new line mates to get on ice before he starts out of his own zone. Gilmore off the board.
Maybe interesting, too, to see what Curtis Joseph does if Andrechuk establishes position in front again.
Well, the Blues, there's no doubt about it. They've got a lot of work to do, I think, mentally more than physically, John, before they go back and take the ice Thursday night in St. Louis. They'll be facing elimination for the first time this year.
The #1 key is their goaltender has to be sharper than what he was tonight.
Andrechuk behind the St. Louis net. Lowry delivers a heavy hit on Mironov. It's perfectly legal.
And he got hit again. Ronnie Wilson put the shoulder into Mironov as he was down. Two tough, hard hits.
Now Barron and Mironov tripped over each other. Behind the play, the fan saw it. Referee, if he didn't make a call. 2:33 left in the double minor to Basil McRae. Andrechuk without a stick still kicks it ahead to Krushelnyski. Gill at the point. Glenn Anderson closes in. Andrechuk, Krushelnyski saved Joseph. Andrechuk saved Joseph, and Nelson Emerson picks up the loose puck. Brett Hull out there shorthanded. Hull with a shot. Putbank closes the pad.
That's why he's out there shorthanded. They need offense. Bob Berry trying everything here to get offense from his hockey club.
And Hull asked to come off, and he does so. Foligno now carries into the St. Louis zone. Mike Foligno, and a stick save by Joseph. A minute 45 to go in the double minor to Basil McRae. National Hockey Night on ESPN, live from Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens. Game 5 North Division Finals. With John Davidson, I'm Tom Mees, and the Toronto Maple Leafs 9-12 away from taking a 3-2 lead in the series. They lead the game 4-1.
Joseph with some good saves here as he seems to be having a strong third period. Mike Foligno with a good scoring chance. Only one hand on the stick as he drove to the net. Mironov, the defenseman, pinched in, and he took one big hit. You'll see it right here. Lowry drives him into the boards. Now watch Wilson come across. Since he's down, he may as well hit him again. Now Mironov will look up, look for the referee, go, oh, come on, this is tough.
They did not do this to me in Russia.
Welcome to the National Hockey League. He there is listening to Mike Murphy, the assistant coach. Mironov does not speak English nearly as well as Borshevsky does. Borshevsky's from the Siberian area. I guess Russia, maybe Siberia now, who knows. But he's worked harder at learning the English language than Mironov has.
Well, we understand Siberia, John. You'll be happy to know it's still part of Russia.
Okay.
You can't tell the republics without a program nowadays. Wendell Clark, the shot. Pad save, Joseph.
And Wendell Clark used the wrist shot, not the slap shot. One of the few players in the league who really uses the wrist shot. And to his advantage very, very well as opposed to the slap shot.
Gilmore in the corner. Knocks the puck to himself. Look at Clark in around the defenseman Giles. Wendell Clark, still 40 seconds left in the power play. Ellett, and the shot is a bullet high to the stick side over the goal. Ellett again in the slot. Passing to Clark, and Joseph grabs it with a glove. 34 seconds left in the Toronto power play.
Understand that Wendell Clark did not have to undergo acupuncture today. Many times on the day of a game, he will. The muscles get so tight in his body that he has to have the acupuncture treatment to loosen them up. Massage won't do it. There's the high shot. May have gone off the crossbar. And who's there waiting for it? Doug Gilmore, another great pass or two. And then you see Curtis Joseph reading the play. Watch Clark move here, avoiding the check. Great move as Kurt Giles tried to stand him up and take the body. And Wendell Clark, who was badly criticized early in the previous series against Detroit for not playing well, not playing hard, has become a very prominent factor for Toronto as they move along in the playoffs. Much like to have one of those needles stuck in about 2.5 inches into the muscle, deep muscle areas to try and loosen them up on days of games.
I think I'll pass, thank you.
Man.
Rich Sutter lost it in behind the Toronto net. Putman loses it for Mironov. Big Krushelnyski dumps it into the St. Louis zone. Another 8 minutes to go now. 13 seconds left on the man advantage for Toronto. And his double minor to Basil McRae just about up. Anderson in the corner tries to set up Foligno. Can't do it, and Joseph to save. The teams are now at even strength, so the Blues have killed off a 4-minute manpower disadvantage. McRae goes right after Mironov as he steps out of the penalty box, but Mironov avoided a heavy check. Foligno in front. Anderson scores!
and Mike Foligno's had some great game here tonight. It's like the fountain of youth has hit him. Pat Burns has to like that. His team killed off by not scoring on the 4-minute power play. Once the power play expired, they go out and get a goal. Look at Foligno wind it up, coast to coast. Anderson and Krushelnyski stay on side. Anderson drives to the net. And you see Foligno with a beautiful, beautiful pass. It had to be behind Anderson so he could retrieve the pass and shoot it on the forehand. Watch where the pass goes and where Anderson reaches back. They're going to reach back for the puck there and just sweeps it right through Murray Barron and through the goaltender. That's a brilliant play. Brilliant play by Mike Foligno. And he's more of a grinder than a playmaker. Glenn Anderson, the recipient of that wonderful pass.
Glenn Anderson celebrates, and they're celebrating in Toronto. The 83rd career playoff goal for Anderson, who, of course, was a major part of those great Edmonton Oilers teams in the mid and late 80s. There's been some rumors, actually, after the first round of playoffs where Anderson was not that impressive, that this may be his last year in Toronto. He's had a good series against St. Louis.
That's amazing what winning will do. Anderson's playing a lot of left wing here in this game with Krushelnyski and Foligno or whomever. During those years, he played a lot of right wing in Edmonton. His off wing, a left-handed shot, playing the right wing. Man, was that ever a nice play by Mike Foligno, who's been a very dominant force in the offensive zone in this game.
Time for the Blues now to fall back and save the equipment and regroup emotionally for Game 6 at home in St. Louis.
This is a very different line. Oh, pardon me. I wonder how much Pat Burns will play Gilmore in the last 7-8 minutes here. Why not rest him, get him ready for the next game, and not take a chance of injury? The St. Louis will be upset, and I'm sure try to take the body somewhat here as the game winds down.
With the exception of a couple of minutes after Brett Hull tied this game, John, let's be honest about it, the Blues have never been in it. Peter Zensel, he's 1-on-2, and he'll just pull up and rag some time off the clock.
Blues have dominated almost every area of this game.
And the Blues have been dominated.
Or have been, I'm sorry. And, you know, Felix Potvin's been good, but he hasn't had to be great at all. It's been a puck possession game by the Leafs. Smart game defensively. The power play's gotten the job done.
That'll be frustrating for the St. Louis Blues that came into this round with a full head of steam. They'd swept aside the division-winning Blackhawks in 4 straight. They played 2 great double overtime games here in Toronto, split them at Game 3 in St. Louis, and all of a sudden, I know mentally they'll never admit it, but they had to be thinking, gee, you know, we're going to be up 3-1 going back to Toronto. And boy, has this series ever changed from Sunday afternoon right through tonight. 5:55 left to go in the 3rd period. Toronto dominating St. Louis in Game 5 of the Norris Final.
Judge Bill Sellis is a full-time district justice, having already dispensed justice in over 300 cases in our area, tempered with wisdom, experience, integrity, and a common-sense approach. Judge Bill Sellis is a respected, qualified family man, concerned about our youth and about protecting our senior citizens from abuse, theft, and fraud, and he knows when to get tough. We need to keep Judge Bill Sellis doing the job for you. On May 18th, vote to keep Bill Sellis, our district justice in the Lower Valley.
The big phone companies are trying to pull the wool over lawmakers' eyes, saying they need expensive new gadgets that they want you and me to pay for, while they pig out on the profits. The phone company already has a tough time providing affordable service to many of its rural customers, like Bill, whose phone is in his barn because the phone company wants $2,000 more to run the line to his house. That's bull. Telephone technology should benefit everyone. Call now and get the phone company to act more like a phone company and less like, well, you get the picture.
Still some good body work. It's a 5-1 Toronto lead. Wendell Clark looks up. Man, Bozan tries to knock Clark down. Did so. A good blue line body check.
Allen with it for Toronto. Just a matter of count now for the Maple Leafs, trying to wind down the time. Not get anybody hurt. And as I say that, in behind Joseph. Now, who was that?
That's
Joseph.
Eastwood. That was Eastwood, but he was in behind Joseph as Joseph was way out, and that's all it takes to spark some of the Blues' emotions. Joseph fired the puck all the way down to the Toronto zone as this continues. The Toronto defensemen joined in to make sure their teammates were not outnumbered. Butcher and Clark, more words than anything else. Todd Gill, a defenseman, moved right in. Manderville involved. I don't think it'll be any more than some pushing and shoving and perhaps some misconducts.
Well, in fairness to Eastwood, I don't believe he meant to hit
I don't think so either. Joseph was out above the goal crease, and I think that Eastwood just tried to dart in behind and avoid the goaltender. But again, the emotions run high. The Blues very disappointed in their performance, and it just takes a little spark like that to ignite the emotions.
Kevin Collins, the veteran linesman from Springfield, Mass., helping Ron Finn to defuse the situation.
Winners of Game 4 of the playoffs this season have gone on to win 8 of 9 series. And it looks good for Toronto right now. They have one more game to go after this one. Now watch Joseph move out, and in comes Eastwood. Now he tries to avoid the goaltender. The goaltender actually hits him. Yeah. That starts everything. Joseph actually hit Eastwood with his hip, and that's what started everything. And that made life a little miserable for the linesman as he had to break up some very emotional hockey players trying to get at one another.
Emotions running high here at Maple Leaf Gardens. You can bet emotions will run high on Long Island tomorrow night. It may be the last stand for the gallant New York Islanders, or it may not. They may force a 7th game. You'll find out. National Hockey Night tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern from the Nassau Coliseum. The New York Islanders of Al Arbor, the Pittsburgh Penguins of Scotty Bowman, and the Isles have everybody's respect, if nothing else, for this series.
I like that. Everybody talks about players. How about the two coaches in that series? Two of the all-time best in Al Arbor and Scotty Bowman, head-to-head, a classic series. Some great play out of players you wouldn't expect it from them, and other players who have just given their all. It's been a wonderful, wonderful series.
As a result of that scrum behind the net, behind Curtis Joseph, Todd Gill goes 2 minutes for Toronto. Rich Sutter 2 minutes for St. Louis. Roughing the calls, so coincidental minors will have a little 4-on-4.
Liberal refereeing, but Dan Marawelli. We haven't seen this much in this game, 4-on-4 action.
Janney is in offside, says Kevin Collins. He dropped the pass to Brett Hull. They say it crossed the blue line, and so it's a face-off.
I mentioned earlier the winner of Game 4 has won 8 of 9 series so far this season in the playoffs. Only New Jersey. The Devils beating Pittsburgh in Game 4 of their series ended up losing one. In this series, Toronto won Game 4 in St. Louis. Here's Zombo heading up ice, and you'll see Brett Hull right here. Not gain the blue line quick enough as Janney tried to drop pass and offside called. You'll see Brett Hull lag in behind the play, and you can see the definite call for the offside.
Instead about games 4, does that mean the Kings should not show up tonight?
Are you kidding? There's always the exception to the rule, isn't there?
Absolutely. Sylvain Lefebvre up to Jamie McCown. Butcher behind his own net, being hounded by Krushelnyski. This is Jeff Brown. Blues are going to throw everything plus the kitchen sink if they can, but nothing has really come close to working tonight on Felix Potvin. Red Hull out there again.
Just haven't seen offense from St. Louis as they rush up the ice. No rush offense whatsoever.
Anderson's shot is short-circuited. Just under a minute left in the coincidental minors to Sutter and Todd Gill. Oh, it's a weak shot in on Felix Potvin, who easily clears the zone. St. Louis Nelson Emerson. It's around Zessel. Centers for no one in particular. Barron keeps it in, though. Does a good job. Nobody there in the left wing boards until Emerson shows up. And the puck comes out of the zone again. Under 4 minutes to go. So the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to take a 3-games-to-2 lead in the series. And I must say, from what I've seen both Sunday and today, St. Louis is going to have a major turnaround job to force a 7th game.
The last time St. Louis scored an even strength goal against Toronto was the game winner in Game 3 by Butcher midway through the third period. They have not scored an even-strength goal against the Leafs since, and that's over 128 minutes of hockey. I mean, that's a long time, and you wonder why you're not winning. That's got a large part to do with it.
Dan Maruelli going to call a penalty here. And we'll sort it out when we return. 3:16 left to go in the third period. Toronto up by 4 goals.
How do you order a Miller Genuine Draft Light, the cold filtered light with smooth draft taste, at a singles bar?
Give me an MGD Light.
Anyone have change for 20?
We'll let him in here. Say MGD Light and say no more.
A hot new peanut just rode into town with a spicy taste that's getting everybody all fired up.
Got some more? Maybe you ought to practice with mild.
Try new Planters Heat in mild and hot.
Introducing the new Subaru Impreza airbag. Although this isn't a unique Subaru feature, it's one of the few parts we don't mind sharing with our competition. The new Subaru Impreza. It's not just another new car.
Lease a new Subaru Impreza for only $159 per month.
Toronto center Mike Eastwood goes 2 minutes for cross-checking at the, let me see, 16-minute, 44-second mark. That youngster enjoying the action from the front row at Maple Leaf Garden. This ticket's going for a pretty penny. Janney wins the face-off for the Blues, who are now on a power play, but trailing by 4. Hotband sticks aside the shot by Brown. Shanahan to Hull. Stefan Quintal with a shot, and Potvin, I don't know if he knew where the puck was, John, but it's underneath those big goalie pads.
He had Brendan Shanahan standing in front. Shanahan had a hold of the defenseman's stick. Unfortunate. Could not be given a penalty. Blues actually moved the puck around pretty well. But Shanahan grabs the defenseman's stick and still stands in front of the goaltender. The pass across, Shanahan in front, and Potvin drops down. It's interesting, you think about shots on goal. You can never shoot the puck too low, can you?
No.
It's the ice.
Yeah.
You can always shoot the puck too high. I think goaltenders, when you think about the top 3 goaltenders with goals against in the league this season were Belfort, Potvin, and Joseph. And all 3 play down on their knees a lot. To beat them up high, you beat them up high. But they stopped the majority of the shots because probably 70% at least of shots are low shots, and you can never shoot too low, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
Why did I think of that when I played?
I was going to ask you, were you great on those low shots, John?
Just trying to figure this out. I don't think so.
John, you're a little late with the logic.
Yeah, well, 15 years.
Well, you know, if you're going to be late, you might as well be very late. Under 2 minutes and 30 seconds now left in the game. 1:05 left in the St. Louis power play. It's a 4-goal Toronto lead. Game 6 on ESPN from the arena in St. Louis. And you know, a standing room crowd will be there of almost 19,000 to root their Blues on. So what they hope will be a date in the 7th game here Saturday night.
Pat Burns has not played Gilmore in the last half of this third period. Give the guy a rest.
Smart move by Burns, and a smart move for baseball fans to keep it right where it is. When we're done here after the hockey game, it's the White Sox, Bo Jackson and company. 5 games in a row, the Pale Hosts have won, taking on Ken Griffey Jr. and the Seattle Mariners from the Kingdom. That comes your way right after a hockey telecast tonight here on ESPN. Didn't take the owners of the Mariners, the Nintendo company, long to put Ken Griffey Jr. in one of their games. Blues control the face-off, still 54 seconds left in their power play.
You talk baseball, ESPN shows a lot of baseball. You know, right now the Blues are bigger than the Cardinals in St. Louis, and that means a lot. Hockey has taken over the city of St. Louis.
I hate to say this, but the penalty time clock has stopped moving. It still shows 54 seconds left in the penalty. I hope somebody's keeping the time by hand there. The game clock's moving, still 1:40 to go in regulation.
Curtis Joseph has allowed 5 goals in this game. Only the second time in his last 30 games. Can you imagine that? That's how great the kid has been, even though he hasn't been good here tonight.
Everybody has a bad man at the office.
The last time he gave up more than 4 was March 30th, a 6-3 loss to Vancouver. Can you imagine what a run it's been for that kid? And I think he probably feels it more than anybody. As I look down at the St. Louis zone, he was bent over, head was down, thinking about what's gone on, knowing that his team will now be 1 game away from elimination, and he's got to have a strong game in St. Louis 2 nights from now. Look at him. You know what's going through his mind. Eating him up. He's a competitor. He's a great kid, a very coachable kid. Wayne Thomas, the assistant coach with St. Louis, who I think will have a great shot at becoming a head coach in the National Hockey League in the near future, does a great job with goaltenders through the years, year after year. Whoever he coaches, there's a good look at Wayne, a former NHL goaltender in New York, and here in Toronto and in Montreal. He understands goaltenders, the way they think, how to make them better. And that's a great part of coaching. He really has a good understanding. Bob Berry knows that one day Wayne will be gone. And he says the organization in St. Louis will feel it.
Face off to the left of Felix Potvin. Minute 18 left in the hockey game. Quintal, shot blocked down in front by Zezel, who took the brunt of that, and he is down. He's hurt in the Toronto zone, and Marawelli stops the play. You can't wear pads over every inch of your body, and Peter Zezel could affirm that right now. He took a slap shot. It appeared in the leg area.
See him take with a 5-1 lead, still tries to play goal. Actually got it off both ankles. Ricocheted off of one and then got the other. He wanted to stay on the ice. The referee blew the whistle because Zezel caused the stoppage. So they made Zezel go to the bench, and in fact now will leave and go to the locker room and get ice on that spot right away. We haven't seen Basil McRae, have we, since he took the double minor?
No. He still may make an appearance, though. He came on the last few seconds Sunday in St. Louis. Ty Domi's in the building tonight.
Yes, he is. Wendell Clark's seats. Isn't that nice? 2 of the tougher players that are good friends. Former teammates here in Toronto.
And a big cheer from the Maple Leaf Gardens crowd. With the announcement, this is the last minute of play in the 3rd period. 5-1. The Maple Leafs are going to go to St. Louis with nothing to lose and everything to gain Thursday night. And it will be very interesting to see. I think hockey fans should tune into ESPN Thursday night, not only because we have the game, but just to see if a dose of the arena, 19,000 fans cheering for St. Louis, can get them going and help them right the ship emotionally, because they need something.
Well, I think they will, certainly early in the game. Pat Burns, I don't think will change a thing. May even, on his travels down there, have the chance to meet Tanya Tucker. Who knows, huh? But I know that the Maple Leafs right now are playing very well offensively, getting the power play goals, and great defensively, not giving up, as we mentioned, an even strength goal to Bob Berry and his Blues for over 130 minutes now, consecutive minutes. Lowry and Vanderbilt with some sticks up as the pucks drop. The Blues are a very proud team in a city that has embraced their hockey club. We'll see a battle.
I tell you, they love the Blue Jays up here, the reigning world champs of baseball. But if you want to talk about capturing the hearts and minds of a city, Toronto always has been, always will be first to hockey town.
They've waited a long time. Management in place, led by Cliff Fletcher, has really turned this franchise around. Here, Pat Burns in the last minute has his kids on the ice. Vanderbilt and Eastwood, along with Wendell Clark. And sitting most of the veterans. Let the young kids go out there and know there's going to be a struggle during the last minute of play. And there you can just read the emotions in the faces of the Blues. They had a 2-1 lead in this series with a home game ahead of them, which they lost. Yeah. And now they find themselves facing elimination.
Do they have the defense, the size on defense, the agility?
I don't think the team itself is nearly as big as Toronto is all over the ice. They don't have the depth. Toronto has used 11 players in every game. That's the fewest of any team in the playoffs here, still alive. In other words, they've been able to move people in and out of the lineup, and St. Louis, quite frankly, doesn't have that option. as Richie Sutter's been thrown out, or at least given a penalty with time expiring. He, along with Eastwood, I believe, Mandeville, pardon me, both given penalties. St. Louis doesn't have the depth, Tom. They just don't have it to compete in a long series.
Krasniewski, a backhander. Joseph to save. 20 seconds to go now as you see the clock superimposed. And the crowd that is left rising as one to salute their Toronto Maple Leafs. One game away from the North Division title. Game 6 in St. Louis. The Blues now know they have to win 2 in a row to come from behind and advance to the third round. Very impressive performance by the Maple Leafs tonight, John.
Start to finish, offense and defense, everything works.
Final scores. Pat Burns leaves the Toronto bench. The Maple Leafs 5. The Blues 1. Toronto takes a 3-2 lead in the series. Game 6 Thursday night on ESPN at 8 Eastern Time. That's it from Toronto. Back to John Saunders.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. 5-1. The Leafs in and commanding now 3-2 lead as it heads back to St. Louis. Gentlemen, a couple of quick comments. Over the last 2 games, it seems as though we are seeing a St. Louis Blues team that really doesn't match up very well with the Leafs.
Well, as Curtis Joseph goes, so go the St. Louis Blues. And if they're going to have any chance in Game 6, they really have to play better in their own zone. Their defensive zone coverage was horrendous tonight. And they're going to have to score some goals. It's a lot to ask your goalie to get a shutout in order for you to win the hockey game.
It's rare that you see a storyline played out. We thought Curtis Joseph coming in had been rattled the previous game. He was. I think the next game they have to change the game plan. Maybe Brett Hull could play without getting some ice time. He's got to get the puck and just shoot because Joseph is not impenetrable anymore.
Yeah, you guys bring up a